Central. Correspondence Central.
Hello and welcome to what I'm going to call the Woofers Extra. I'm so excited about this, Lockie.
Hi, Chaz. Yes, you have been absolutely bouncing off the walls to chat to the woofers.
Yes, indeed. And look, I should do the craft of pretending I haven't talked to him yet, but I have. It was great.
Okay, cool.
He's awesome.
I haven't actually, I wasn't there for the recording, but I can see Chaz beaming.
And so whenever you got something really good, you never lead with it because then people just turn off afterwards. We'll put at the end. Now, I know this is YouTube and the podcast that you can listen to, so people are just going to scroll forward.
They're not even hearing this bit.
No,
they've already clicked the
scrolled.
timestamp.
That's fine.
Good. That's what we
fine.
want.
That's fine. But I do want to set up some of the woofers stuff beforehand as well. So we went so long because he was very generous with his time that there's just no point me trying to fit in all my eye stuff. I'm just going to either squeeze in an extra after Melina's pod, or I'll push it back to when we return or whatever. Like, I'm not going to get it all in. So for that reason, I'm going to put in some extra stuff that I wasn't going to squeeze in because I was going to try and squeeze in all my eye stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Got some leftover This Is Not Normal from Friday. That one. Okay, so we'll kick off with a bit of that. Then I'm going to do some setup for the Woofers interview, and then we'll have Woofers. And by the way, thank you everyone who contacted Jason Woofers demanding he speak to me.
Absolutely. I did have a trawl through the comments on Platypus Economics, and there were plenty of you Peppers hiding in there.
Thank you, Peppers.
Well done.
But let's start off with This Is Not Normal. Now, look, you might think that Donald Trump and Giorgia Meloni should get along like a house on fire. She is a conservative populist, much like Trump. She is without doubt the current European leader who is closest to Trump in their politics.
Mm-hmm.
Vance has been running around trying to boost Orban and AfD in Germany, like his neo-Nazi party. Meloni isn't nearly as compromised as either Orban or AfD, and she's also hugely popular with the Republican base. Trump and her should be friends.
Okay.
It makes sense. Yet Trump has had an issue with her all year. And there are two reasons for this.
All right.
At least I can see. There may be more. Who knows what goes on behind the scenes. One, Meloni has been particularly aggressive about Putin, and I don't think Trump enjoys that.
Pow.
Yes. And two, Meloni refused to allow US warplanes to use Italian bases for direct combat or armed operations during the Iran war.
Okay.
She says that international law forbids it, and not to mention treaty obligations and all the rest of it. She did, however, allow bases to be used for logistical, technical and non-kinetic support. American planes were using the Italian bases during the war, just not for direct fly
as
from
much
there to
as Trump
Germany.
specifically wanted.
Exactly. He didn't get the exact thing he wanted, and so he got the shits, as he is wont to do when he doesn't get the exact thing that baby wants. Anyway, and I should also add, she defended the Pope against Trump's attacks. Like
The Italian PM?
Yes, that's right. That's
Backed with the Pope?
I know. It seems unreasonable to me. That's a big surprise, but it turns out the Italian PM backed the Pope over Trump, and I don't think he enjoyed that either. I mean, Trump. The Pope enjoyed it very much. Then during the G7, she obviously had some issue with Trump again we don't know about. If you look at this footage that we got here, you can see, you can see her clearly expressing herself quite forthrightly
And he's not looking too happy.
No, he's not. He's not. Now, look, Italians do this, I got to say. This is actually not a big deal. By Italian standards, what we're looking at here is pretty standard, really. Like, my whole family speaks like they're standing on an airport runway. That's how we operate. You just come in there and it's like a Woody Allen movie. You're just yelling at each other. So Meloni there, like, she's not even really being that strident. But you can see that Trump isn't enjoying it.
Okay, sure.
I don't know that Trump... Look, I don't want to go there. But I suspect that Trump doesn't enjoy being told off by a very short woman. Either way, he doesn't look happy, right? So anyway,
yes.
she had that, and I'm sure she wasn't particularly angry at him. She was just doing her usual demonstrative talking. That got around on Twitter, and they did make it into something. And Trump wouldn't have liked that. Whether she was telling him off or not, the fact that people were saying she was telling him off, he cares much more
about what they're saying,
what people perceive than the reality, right? And then a reporter from LA7 in Italy rang Trump up, clearly out of the blue, because this happens. The press just have his number and they just ring him up for comments. And I'm going to play this long so you can see just how distracted and indifferent Trump is when he's conducting these kinds of interviews. And really, you think, are all his interviews like this? Because if they are, we really shouldn't take anything he says seriously during these interviews. Because, I mean, just listen to him. He doesn't give a shit, clearly.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. President. Good evening. This is Daniele Compatangelo, weather correspondent for Italian TV channel number 7.
Where are you from?
From Italy. I'm a White House correspondent for Channel 7, Mr. President.
Tell me about Italy.
2 questions on Ukraine and Hezbollah, if you may. If Ukraine continue to show interest in pursuing future UE membership, could that complicate your effort to reach a deal with President Putin?
I'm not involved with that. We just want to have peace. How is your president doing? How is she doing?
Well, she just met you at the G7. What did you make of her?
What did she say when she met me? No, I loved it.
Well,
what did she say?
Well, she's obviously very happy and proud to have a friend.
That I talked to her.
Yeah,
she's happy that I talked to her.
Yeah, on the little couch.
Talk to her.
Yeah,
and she wanted my picture so badly.
Yeah, what do you make of it? What do you think of all that?
I don't know. She asked me. She begged me for a picture. I wouldn't have done it, but I felt sorry for her.
What would you? Oh, I understand. What would you suggest to her and the European ally to do in Ukraine, sir? With all this experience, you set up 8 conflicts. What do you suggest to the Europeans, sir? Can you?
The Europeans are bad on energy and they're bad on immigration, and if they don't fix it, Europe will never be the same. Probably can't be anyway.
You're right.
Really loused up Europe. The immigration is a disaster, and the energy with all their windmills, which are losers, is a disaster. You sound great. I got to go. So long, man.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.
So long, man.
So, yeah, I get the feeling Trump had no idea who he was, didn't really care. He sounded foreign. Trump didn't give a shit. He's just whatever.
Sounds like how I sound when I'm sort of trying to get off the line to a cold call asking you for money.
I think that's very much the vibe. I think he probably had trouble understanding him as well. Like at the beginning there, he didn't seem to pick up the question. He had zero interest talking about Ukraine, obviously. He just seemed to just all he wanted to talk about was just about Meloni. So tell me your Prime Minister. What'd she say about me? What'd she say about me? He asked.
Yeah, good pickup.
Yeah. What the question? What did she say about me?
She was begging for a photo.
Yeah, and that's when he started the begging for a photo thing, right? It seemed to me like as soon as he worked out that this is Italy, he was looking for an excuse to run her down, it seems to me.
Oh.
That's the vibe I was getting from that.
Sure, to Italy.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, what he's saying was false. They never posed for proper photos. When he's saying, I posed for a photo. Like, literally, the only photos that have been taken of them, if you have a look, during this conversation that conversation there, there's a few photos of that. But it was a conversation. Like they never posed. I mean, you might go, well, that's a pose. But there are like 10 photos of them just talking to each other, and sometimes they're blinking, and like it's just them in a corner talking.
You know that it's not posed because he would have looked way better if it was. Yes. That's not a flattering photo.
Like, it was literally in a corner, and the light was behind them, and like that's not what you do to pose for a photo, right? No. And that's the only photos that were taken of them that I can find. So I don't know what he's talking about posing for photos. I wouldn't take it very seriously, that conversation, but Meloni did take it seriously.
Oh, okay.
She immediately recorded a video response that said, and I'm just going to read it out to you because she spoke in Italian, certain things deserve an immediate response. Donald Trump's statements are completely fabricated. I am frankly appalled. I don't know why the President of the United States behaved this way towards his allies. After all, it's not the first time it's happened. I can only say it's a pity that he doesn't show the same determination with the enemies of the West, with the enemies of the United States, with leaders towards whom he instead proves to be much more accommodating. But you must remember one thing, Italy and I never beg. And the Italian Foreign Minister, Antonio Tajani, announced he was cancelling a planned visit to the US next week. He said the serious and offensive words of President Trump towards Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni offend all of Italy.
Wow, that's a big response.
Yeah. So he started an international incident, essentially. Why? Because he had the shits from a few months ago. So Meloni responds. What's he going to do?
Oh, it's all just water on the bridge. He's a pretty forgiving guy. It's
Yes,
fine.
Of course he doubles
He's got
down.
much bigger things to handle.
Of course he doubles down, and of course he tweets out some jab. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni asked over and over for a picture with me during the G7 meeting in France. She's doing poorly in Italy with her level of popularity, possibly because she turned down the United States of America, a country that truly loves and protects Italy, when it came to denying Iran from obtaining or developing a nuclear weapon. But so did NATO, for that matter. She wouldn't even let us use Italy's landing strips or runways, a great logistical inconvenience, and this despite the fact the US contributes hundreds of billions of dollars a year to protect Italy and other so-called NATO allies. Now, after the United States defeated Iran militarily, she wants to be friends again in order to get her numbers up. No thanks, President DJT. As an aside, would you care to guess the Trump's current approval rating in Italy?
You said that she was a conservative populist,
Yes.
so I'm going to guess it's higher than what it is in Australia. Like 30% approval?
Well, look, that would be a pretty good guess if you're talking about Meloni's approval rating.
No, Trump's.
No, I understand.
Oh, okay.
I understand.
Sorry.
Meloni's approval rating is in the mid to high 30s. Trump's, by contrast, is at 7%. 7%.
Whoops.
So I'm not sure she's trying to take photos with him to be more popular. 7%. That number again is 7%.
That's lower than here.
Yeah, that's pretty low.
Wow.
And then
Why?
ask the Pope.
I retract.
And then Meloni responded again to Trump because, of course, she's not going to let it slide because his approval rating, once again, is 7%. She said, President Trump, these constant unprovoked attacks are senseless. As for my popularity, being your friend certainly has not helped it, nor does it depend on my relationship with you. My popularity depends on my ability to defend Italy's national interest, and that's exactly what I've always done. This is also what I did regarding the American military bases in Italy. Their use is governed by agreements that we have always respected, and that cannot be violated as long as I am Prime Minister. Italy remains a sovereign nation. In any case, my popularity is none of your concern. I suggest you focus on yours.
Oh, snap.
Snap.
What? That's dangerously close to receiving a "you're not handling your cards right" comment.
Yeah, I can only imagine what her body language was like if she had said that aloud rather than tweeted it out. That's where we're at now.
Huge.
Yeah, I don't know why Trump wants this fight. I still don't know why he wants this fight or what he's hoping to achieve with this fight. I don't think Trump knows what he's trying to achieve with this fight. I think he just has the shits. And so he's alienating his only natural ally left in Europe.
Wow.
Not normal foreign policy. Not normal. Not normal. George H.W. Bush would not have done that. And I got one more, which is actually the opposite. I'm gonna shoot down a not normal.
As in, you're going to say this is normal?
I'm going to say that I don't think this is true.
Oh, okay.
Stat News reported that the clinician at the National Institutes of Health requested Eli Lilly's unapproved obesity drug, retatrutide, through the compassionate use program to treat an unidentified 79-year-old man for refractory obesity with obstructive sleep apnea and pulmonary hypertension. You got that? 79-year-old man with refractory obesity, obstructive sleep apnea, and pulmonary hypertension. Who could that 79-year-old man be, people wondered.
Oh.
Who's that 79-year-old man who wants the fat drug,
No.
who has sleep apnea and pulmonary hypertension?
Oh, wait. No, you said you're shooting this down. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, look,
I'm not going to get my hopes up.
Look, the press were getting pretty excited about this. And the reporter from Stat News asked the White House, and they fobbed her off. They refused to answer the question.
Well, that basically means it's proven.
That's usually what you conclude when they refuse to answer a question. So she wrote an article about it, saying, "This is what I found. This is what the White House said. You draw your own conclusion." Then the White House Rapid Response account tweeted out, "No, it wasn't President Trump, and you people are truly sick and deranged." Though the Blue Sky link in your bio already gave that much away.
Whoa, got him.
So-
Thank you, official White House correspondent.
In my view, that's pathetic. Do your bloody job, or don't whinge when people draw conclusions because you didn't do your bloody job. They're the people who are supposed to respond. Respond when you're asked to respond. You can't blame the reporter for reporting on an actual story, which they tried to verify and you couldn't be bothered rebutting. I should say, by the way, it wasn't just a rapid response unit. The White House officially denied it was him. Like there were a bunch of people who in a much more polite fashion, said it's not him after the story came out.
Sure.
Right.
Is there an issue of trust around that, or
Well, of course there is. But what I would suggest, a couple of things. Trump seems to have gained weight recently, to me.
Okay.
Not lost weight. That drug, retatrutide.
Retatrutide?
Thank you. Retatrutide is notorious for being way more effective than Ozempic. Okay, you see what Ozempic does to people. This new drug does a lot more. If Trump was on that drug, we'd know he's on that drug. We wouldn't need the leak of a 79-year-old man story.
Sure.
We'd be able to see it. He'd have Ozempic face. He'd have the hollow face. He'd be really skinny. His suit be falling off him. Like, that man is not on a fat drug, let me tell you. Just look at him. He's not on a fat drug. By contrast, Trump does talk quite a lot about his very fat friend. This guy that he's referring to here.
And a friend of mine who's extremely fat, sloppy, but very brilliant. He's a brilliant businessman, but he's a slob. There's no question about it.
I'm sure his friend loves the fact that that's how he refers to him all the time. He's a very, very fat slob.
Do we know who that friend is?
No, we don't.
Okay.
But
Well, we will when that friend obviously gets hired to fix something on a no-bid contract.
That's what we'll know. But, yeah, look, that's my guess. That's my guess who the 79-year-old man who got special treatment was.
Okay.
But, look, I don't know. I'm just saying I don't think it's Trump because we would see if it was Trump and we are not seeing it. I'll come back to that.
Okay.
I just want to say I don't think that's true. So I don't want to give him the not normal there, even though that would be not normal if he got special permission for people who are dying. That's what the compassionate permission is. For people who are dying, got special permission to use a fat loss drug because he was feeling a bit vain.
Well, depending on what you think about his health, he might not be.
Maybe. I don't think it's quite that bad.
Okay.
But let's get on to some correspondences.
Please.
Correspondence Central.
All right. History correspondence. Last week I told you about Trump's fascination with the name William the Conqueror.
Yes, you did.
Now, Tom has noted that at the time, Tom's a bit of a history buff. He says at the time William the Conqueror was actually known, not as William the Conqueror, but William the Bastard. Although probably not to his face.
Right, okay.
So maybe Trump's fascination with William the Conqueror is appropriate. I bet no one's told Trump about the bastard nickname either, says Tom.
Not to his face.
No. That's a nice one, Tom. Thank you for that. Tallarico correspondence. Stephen writes, I think Chaz misunderstands the word gay-baiting. This is from like 2 weeks ago. I used the word gay-baiting quite a few times when talking about Tallarico.
Because they were gay. They were talking about thinking that Tallarico was gay and they were making jokes about that.
Yes. No, insinuating that he's gay or that he's trans, and I said they were gay-baiting. Stephen says, I don't think Chaz knows what that means. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone use that specific expression, but queer-baiting is when you try to make something seem queer for the purposes of attracting, a gay audience, but then never actually following up on it. E.g. a TV show having two male characters act in ways that could be perceived as them being a couple, but there's no real proof they are. So The Odd Couple, maybe. I only bring this up because for a while I was confused what Chaz was trying to say was happening.
Oh.
I thought gay-baiting Tallarico was going to be the Democrats doing it to him to make him seem like he's gay to improve his support amongst queer or left-leaning voters, which obviously they're not trying to do. Though I did see the Tallarico campaign thing that had the biggest divide in this country is not left versus right, it's top versus bottom, which was pretty funny, and maybe that was knowingly a double entendre. So, Stephen, okay. Firstly, a lot of conservatives are also laughing at Tallarico about the top versus bottom thing. I don't know if it's intentional or not in his part. He seems very straight-laced, so I don't think it is intentional. But conservatives find that very funny. Secondly, yes, you're right, Stephen. I tend to use gay bashing and gay baiting interchangeably as terms. That, in hindsight, is a mistake. I had never heard that use of queer baiting before. That's the first time I'd ever heard of it. But I've heard of it now. And I think the reason, and that's obviously that's very confusing, so I'll try and stop that. I think the reason I was using the word gay baiting in the way that I was while gay baiting may or may not exist, the word race baiting definitely exists. That's an active thing in American politics.
Right.
Race baiting. Let me read you the definition of race baiting according to the Cambridge Dictionary. The act of intentionally encouraging racism or anger about issues relating to race, often to get a political advantage. So you can see where I'm coming from now. That's exactly the context in which I made up the word gay baiting.
So you've not spoonerized, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, I've just adapted.
You've created gay baiting.
Well, here's the thing.
In your own head.
I don't want you thinking that I'm like, like Trump talking about groceries. Going, I invented the word groceries. And go, no, actually, that's been around for quite a while. I'm pretty sure other people have used the phrase gay baiting before I did. I don't think I'm the first person to do that. But whether I came up with it in my own head or whether I'm just regurgitating what other people did, I'm sure what's going on in my head is race baiting and making the gay equivalent of it. And of course, race baiting uses the concept of baiting in the direct opposite way of queer baiting. So that's very strange and very confusing, which is why I'm not going to use the term gay baiting again.
Probably good.
At least not in that context.
There you go.
So thank you very much, Stephen, for pointing that out. I'll try to not send people careening down a verbal Escher diagram in future. We got some Petola correspondence as well from Alaska, the Democratic representative, Mary Petola. Phil writes, hey Chaz, just a small thing on what you said about Mary Petola having some indigenous blood in her. That's a quote from me. She's actually not just a some blood situation. Her mum is Yupik from the village of Kwethluk. So Mary grew up immersed in that culture, fishing, speaking some Yupik herself, the whole thing. She's also an enrolled tribal member with the Arutsaramiut Native Council, and she's actually the first Alaska Native person ever elected to Congress, which is a pretty big deal. So it's less some heritage somewhere back there and more this is a central lived part of who she is. Fair enough. I imagine that probably helps her local popularity as well. Just one more reason why she's quite popular. She really is the most locally focused candidate there is in America, I think. She's just so specially designed for Alaska, which I think not only makes her very likely to win, but ironically means that the Washington press is less likely to cover her because she's so localized and so locally focused.
Huh.
She doesn't need to talk to Washington. And that's why I think most people are sleeping on the fact that she is going to win. And she's going to be critical to if the Democrats end up to retaking the Senate. And then no one's talking about her. They're talking about Platner. They're talking about Tallarico. Tallarico's definitely got less chance than Petola. Like she is a very likely candidate, I think. And it's because she sticks to herself. No one writes about her. Mary Creek responded to my talk about Petola's unorthodox moderation with the following. Chaz, be careful what you wish for in Alaska. Case in point, Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. D? Question mark. Look, I get your point, Mary Creek. And many peppers, I'm sure, also hate Fetterman like you clearly do. But personally, my problem with Fetterman is that he goes out of his way to turn up on Fox News and just dump all over other Democrats. I reckon that's really myopic of him and really destructive and frankly very selfish as well. I know politicians are meant to be selfish, but really selfish. It's like I hate that he does that. But you know, I don't care that he's a moderate. I don't care that he has that if he has different views from me. I mean, like long-term listeners to the pod will have followed my journey with AOC, where when she first started, I just had zero respect for her originally, much like I do for Chevalier at the moment. But she won me over. She won me over because she seemed to actually care and to do the work. That won me over. The fact she seems to do the work. And the fact she seems to be quite pragmatic and sensible. And I don't agree with almost any of her policies. That hasn't changed, but she's won my respect with her personality.
Okay.
And I think that you can disagree with someone if you respect their personality. Now, I don't respect Fetterman's personality.
Okay.
Because of the way he shows up on Fox News and just backstabs as many people of many of his allies as he possibly can to promote himself. But the actual policy, different people have different views. That's okay. Let me put this way to you. Would you prefer Fetterman or you prefer Dave McCormick, who's the other Pennsylvania senator, who's a moderate Republican? Who would you prefer? That's the alternative to Fetterman, a moderate Republican. Pick Fetterman. He votes for Chuck Schumer, and he votes for whoever the Democrat leader is, and he votes for I haven't done the numbers for this, but it'd be 70 to 80% at least, if not more, of the votes he votes with the rest of the Democrats. So I think that's better than a Republican, isn't it?
If that's your flavour, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Mary Creek's flavour. Hence D, question mark. I'd say D, question mark, is a lot better than R, question mark, which is what your alternative is. So Mary Petola is going to be a pain in the ass. You're right. You know what? I bet you she doesn't vote to end the filibuster. She's going to be one of those ones. But she'll vote for a Democrat to be the leader of the Senate. And Mary Creek, I think that's probably your main concern over the next 2 years. The big Petola correspondence, though, Lockie, involves her opponent.
Which one?
Dan Sullivan.
Again, I ask which one?
Exactly. Now, I should say, I'll credit this to the Discord, because lots of people on the Discord sent this to me. Actually, a few people on email it as well. The big news. Lockie's already ahead of this, asking which one. Let me specify.
Please.
When I say Dan Sullivan,
Uh-huh.
I don't mean Republican Dan Sullivan. I mean Republican Dan Sullivan, the other one.
Question mark?
That's right. I mean the other guy who's calling himself Dan Sullivan and is saying he's a Republican, even though he has no history of being Republican or calling himself Dan Sullivan.
All right.
Just
go on.
That guy. The Alaska Supreme Court has come over the top of Alaska's Division of Elections.
Okay.
Alaska's Division of Elections said, you can't run as Dan Sullivan, Republican, when you're clearly not a Republican or Dan Sullivan. They were making a point. He refers to himself officially as Daniel Sullivan in all respects, apart from when he was running for office. And he even at one point in time pretended he had the same middle name as the real Dan Sullivan. It's bullshit. And then and there were links to Democratic operatives and stuff. He clearly was a bad faith guy trying to confuse voters, obviously. The Alaska Division of Elections said you can't do that. They knocked him off the ballot. The Alaska Supreme Court has now come over the top. And they've said the second Dan Sullivan can run in the Alaska primary.
Whoa.
They said doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's bad faith. They said it literally doesn't matter. It is not the job of the Division of Elections to decide whether he's in bad faith or not. I said if he's qualified, he gets to be on the ballot.
Wow.
That's what they said.
Yeah,
That's what
okay.
the court said. To me, he's obviously in bad faith, by the way. The Division of Elections is completely right. And I must admit, I haven't read the case, so I might have lost some nuances. But that seems to be what they're saying, that you literally don't have the power to rule whether someone is put themselves on the ballot in good faith or not.
Yeah. Which I guess is fair because you could rule out a lot of people as bad faith.
Yeah. And the court said, look, Alaska election law gives the division tools to address that concern, like using their middle name on the ballot, something like that. So look, they'll be messing with the ballot. They'll probably put middle initials or whatever. At the end of the day, I still think the incumbent Senator Dan Sullivan is going to make the top 4, which is all you need to do to get through to the final election. And the second Dan Sullivan probably won't make the top 4. And the whole story is hilarious.
But imagine if he does.
I know. Look, I might change my mind. If he actually makes the final election, I might. Actually, it won't matter because there's preferential. Alaska is preferential.
Okay.
So there's two Dan Sullivans on the final ballot. As long as the real Dan Sullivan gets more votes, gets more primary votes than the other one, and they preference each other, it doesn't matter. The real Dan Sullivan will get all the votes.
Oh, but it's just such a wild card jape.
It is.
Who wants to stop some of the preferences flowing to the wrong Dan Sullivan?
Well,
there's so many shenanigans here that you can't really predict what'll happen.
There are, and if I'm being honest, I think it's awful. But I can't help. Can't help thinking it's hilarious.
So funny.
That's right.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't work. If it works, I'll quickly become very angry.
Yeah.
Assuming it doesn't work, it's a delightful wrinkle.
But even if it does work, you will go terrible, hate it. Kind of funny.
Yeah. I can't deny it.
Fascinating. Really fascinating.
Yeah. But anyway, for now, I'm just going to point and laugh. And he's on the ballot. Hidden hero correspondence from Dressy. Chaz, remember the US pilot who was shot down and not paraded around the States afterwards? Reading between the lines, this CNN clip perhaps explains why. Now, just before you play it, I'll just remind people what we're talking about here. We're talking about in Iran, there was a pilot who was shot down by drones or
right at the start of the war. Yes.
And there was this dramatic rescue that went for like a day. And it looked like he was going to get captured and all the rest of it, but they rescued him, they kept him safe, and then he disappeared.
Yes.
We never heard an interview. We never saw anything else about him. We've
and
never heard
you
since.
had a few theories as to why we hadn't heard about him.
Yeah, because some people were saying to us in correspondence, they were saying, do you think it's fake? And that's the reason we haven't heard from him. And I was saying, look, there's other reasons it could be.
Yeah.
Number one, maybe he's a hardcore Democrat. They don't want him there dissing Trump when he does an interview. Maybe he's really disfigured. Maybe he got his face blown up. And Trump doesn't want him being out in public because it will make the war look bad. I said there's all kind of reasons that they might be hiding, and we just don't know. But I'm not going to go the conspiracy theory, is what I was saying. Now, Dressy says this new CNN clip might illustrate why they kept him under wraps.
Tell us a little bit more about what the pilot described seeing and how the intelligence community is reacting.
Yes, sources say that this description really shocked U.S. intelligence officials who were conducting this debrief of this pilot who was shot down and then subsequently rescued after they were shot down over Iran in April. And our sources say that the pilot was talking about witnessing multiple drones that were interconnected, with the larger drones operating above the smaller ones acting sort of as legs, all of these drones moving in unison, which suggested that there was interconnectivity between them. And that's something that we're told was not something the intelligence community, the U.S. intelligence community, was really tracking as far as Iran's drone capabilities are concerned. Another source characterizing the pilot's account as describing a minefield of drones, and initial reports did acknowledge the possibility that these drones could have in some way enabled the Iranians to shoot down this F-15 fighter jet, which would be a pretty remarkable moment in this conflict, given this was the first instance in which a manned U.S. aircraft was shot down by the Iranian.
That's interesting, isn't it?
That is new information.
Yeah. And look, it makes sense to me. That really rings true because Hegseth was desperately trying to run down the Iranian military. For the last 3 months, he's been acting like they did to just use pea shooters, and America just ran them over in a day. And how mighty are our military, how lethal are our operations, and Iran just can't compete, and Trump is great, and look at that bicep, watch me do pull-ups. That's the vibe from Hegseth. And so if he hears actually the Iranian drone technology is superior to American technology,
they got alien shit.
It's stuff that you haven't even seen before.
Yeah.
He doesn't want that. That's not good for propaganda.
No.
The Iranian military actually is excellent. He doesn't want that. So I can totally understand if they kept the guy under wraps because of that. You might go, well, he doesn't need to speak about how he got shot down. What interview is not going to start with what happened? Of course. And if they say to him, no, you're not allowed to say that, that's exactly the kind of thing that gets leaked.
Yeah.
And then it looks worse. And so the easy thing for them to do is just shut him up. And just say, don't put him out for interviews. Just go, just recover, man. You've been through a lot.
Hey, come on. We love you. We're the government. We would never parade you around for our own gain.
We care about your well-being primarily. So, yeah, that to me rings true. And I reckon that is the answer for why we haven't heard from that guy. But yeah, you make up your own mind. This is all speculation. Oh, one more thing, actually. If that came out, just leave aside Hegseth's ego. If that came out that they had these magic drones, do you think Iran developed those magic drones?
No.
No, I don't think so. I think Russia might have, or China might have. Probably China, given Russia's drone technology at the moment in the Ukraine war. I think China might have. And then you know what you got then? You got a world war then. That's what you've got. Because then you go, then America's saying, well, hang on, we have to publicly acknowledge that China is fighting against us.
Yeah.
China is supplying weapons that is killing Americans.
Wow.
And then you've got a real problem. And so I could also understand why they don't want to get out for that reason as well. Because they're trying to keep the war as limited as possible.
That is almost a sign of rationality coming from them.
Yeah, look, I'm speculating. I don't know. But that's my speculation. Weak strongman correspondence, Lockie, from that guy.
Speaking of Hegseth.
Yeah, that's right. We talked last week about the fact that Putin and Trump and Orban and Netanyahu.
Mao and
Xi,
sorry.
Yeah, these are weaker strongmen than the strongmen of the past, like the Stalins and the Mao Zedong and all the rest of it. And we speak about why the strongmen these days are weaker. I had my theories. Dave had his theories. That guy is a theory. Re the current weak strongman. I think it has to do with their rise. Putin, Xi, Kim, MBS. They're not revolutionaries. And I think strength in those systems is developed through a baptism of fire, which none of these men endured. It's rare in history to be both a great conqueror and a great administrator. And the Cold War communists were perhaps an exception to that divide, able to leave working legacies. But the current strongmen not only work within, but they were created by systems that developed 50, 80 years ago before they came to power. And that does not lead to a dominating cult of personality like a revolutionary leader has. It's as fine a guess as any. I think it's possible. I personally think there's more to it than that, which is some of my theories I talked about last week. You can look them up if you want, but that could definitely contribute. I thought it was worth sharing. Good thought, that guy.
Very good.
Another Dave, another Dr. Dave. There is another Dr. Dave out there.
No, there's not.
There is.
There's only one Dr. Dave.
No, there's another one. This is a history doctor, though. And we've quoted him before, and I'm actually friends with him. And he puts this stuff in my messages, in my GChat messages, and I said, no. Dude, you know how this works? Email Pep. And then I'll read it out.
Or just put it on the Discord at 4 a.m.
Yeah, that's right. Another Dr. Dave, he writes in the email. In Dr. Dave's admirable desire to contextualize FDR with Stalin and Mao, he compared Stalin and Mao's killing tens of millions of their own people with the US Army's kill count in World War II. Setting aside whether that's a murdery apples to murdery apples comparison, he clearly said that in World War II, the US fielded the biggest military ever assembled in human history. Roughly 16 million Americans served in the military in World War II out of a population of about 135 million versus 34 million in the Soviet military from a population of around 200 million at the start of the war. Soviet population down 30 million by war's end. Whether in absolute numbers or as a proportion of population, 11% of Americans directly served versus 17% of Soviets. The Soviet military was far larger. Of course, you could make an argument the US military in World War II was the most powerful in human history in relative terms, but the tape clearly, alas, says biggest.
I was thinking, but, nukes. No, fair call, another Dr.
Biggest.
Dave. Biggest.
This is what I love about Pet. I love this stuff. And honestly, I'm a little bit jealous. I love those corrections when they're about me. I love people slap me down with facts. Hard, raw facts with percentage signs after them. I live for them. I only wish Dave was here to beg your forgiveness, another Dr. Dave. I know he would. He always takes it. He takes it humbly every time. That is good stuff. Thank you, another Dr. Dave. And we've got some Liz Oyer correspondence. People immediately, no doubt, going, sorry, who? Liz Oyer? Liz Oyer? What? Who? Have you ever mentioned Liz Oyer? Mentioned her once, long time ago. Liz Oyer was the Trump pardon attorney at the beginning of last year, like February last year. She refused to recommend that Mel Gibson, who has a history of drinking and domestic violence.
This is like a gun thing, isn't it?
She refused to let him have a gun.
This is from a bajillion years ago.
That's right. She refused to let him have a gun, and they advised her, you should let him have a gun. She said, no, I'm not going to let him have a gun. He's a drunk who has a history of domestic violence. I'm not going to allow him to have a gun. And so they fired her. And now Mel Gibson has a gun. But also, Liz Oyer has her own Substack and a channel now, and it's a great channel and a great Substack. And Steve points us to this exclusive observation made by Liz Oyer that no one else has noticed. Take it away, Liz.
6 weeks ago, the Justice Department quietly adopted a new policy that gives the Attorney General the power to send any federal prisoner to any prison in the country. If you are facing a federal prison sentence, Todd Blanche has total discretion to decide where you'll serve your time. This is a huge deal, and it's a huge departure from past practice. Under this rule, Blanche could direct the Bureau of Prisons to put anyone who opposes the Trump administration in a maximum security prison.
And she goes on to make the point that not only could Todd Blanche put protesters and just general Democrats in maximum security prisons if he wanted to, general enemies of the administration, but he could do the opposite. He could put Trump's allies in sweet Ghislaine Maxwell type prisons.
That's exactly who I was thinking of.
Yeah. Well, this happened before the Ghislaine. This happened after the Ghislaine Maxwell thing.
Yeah.
But he can now do it with whoever he wants.
Yeah.
It doesn't need a reason. He can just snap his fingers and it happens.
No. But this is Todd Blanche we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, I know.
He would
He's a man.
never do something just because his boss told him to.
Honest Todd, they call him. He's a man dripping in integrity. Yeah. Look, that's a great observation from Liz Oyer. That's fantastic. And I can't believe it hasn't made the news because that's an excellent observation from her. And she's absolutely right. This should be, because she goes on to say, hey, spread the word, which is what I'm doing. It's what Steve did, spread news to me. Now I'm passing it on. I'm paying it forward and spreading it on to you guys. And she said, specifically, end of the video, pass it on and make sure that you say that Democrats should ask him questions about this at his confirmation hearing. 100%. That's a great call. He is rarely accountable, Todd Blanche. That's going to be a time he's accountable. They should ask him if it's true, and they should ask him why he did it, and they should ask him what promises he can make about right then and there about how he's going to use that newfound power. And yeah, sure, he might break his word. It is honest Todd who would never break his word. But look, you can only do what you can do, Lockie.
Yeah, no, great. And great pickup, Steve and Liz Oyer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge.
Yeah, she's good. 17 points correspondence. That this is the what I've just discovered. There was a 3-part short. Is that right?
Third part's still coming out, guys. I'll get there. You know how hard it is to edit 2 minutes?
I hope that's not annoying you guys, the fact that Lockie's now putting our shorts out in parts.
It's basic social media management. I stand by it.
I'm sure you're right. I'm sure you're absolutely right.
If you want to watch the whole 6 minutes early, you go to the feed.
I'm sure you're right. I'm just saying that I would find that annoying. That's all I'm saying.
It's intentionally annoying.
Thank you, Lockie. I don't want to give you a hard time. Thank you for doing this shit, which I would never do. I don't mean that break up in 3 parts. I mean the shorts. Anyway, we've got a bit of correspondence on that. Jeff writes, there is one state, because I said this was, when it's about 17 points, I'm talking about whether I said there was 17 elements to every shitty Trump story. I was talking about the pool, the reflecting pool. I said that the reflecting pool was Trump on safe mode.
Yes,
no
you did.
stakes. Jeff says there is one stake to the green water. Trump is pulling the entire NPS budget to his Beautify DC project. So the Park Service doesn't have enough money to keep the parks running. Yes, that's lower stakes than normal Trump admin stuff, but it's still a little bit. Fair enough, Jeff. We should acknowledge. But I think by Trump standards, as you acknowledge, that's pretty low stakes. I still stand by that. This is the Trump administration on safe mode. Kim I says, you forgot a point with your 17 points. You forgot a point that's very common in Trump stories where costs are involved. The initial quote is a lot less than the final cost, and it escalates very quickly in only a matter of days, often before any work has begun, definitely before it's completed.
I'd say this is in there where you were talking about how experts say, oh, this is going a bit weirdly, but Trump insists that it's going perfectly. Yeah. I'd say it comes under that.
It's implied, but I should have specifically said it. Kim I's right. That is definitely a key element of every shitty Trump story. Zoidenberger's got one as well. I felt you missed one important step. Trump becomes embroiled in conflicts with people dressed in frog costumes. That's a good call, Zoidenberger.
Can I be cynical and add a 19th step?
Yeah.
Or a step that sits somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, what's that?
Lots of people online go, we're only talking about this so we don't talk about the Epstein files. That's another step. That's
definitely another step. You're true. That's spot on. Yeah, the old, this is a distraction from the thing I want to talk about thing. Because it's not just the Epstein files. There are other things. They'll often find other things that they think is a distraction from. But the Epstein files is a regular. There's no doubt.
Too many steps.
Too many steps. 17,
too many shorts.
17 was pretty long as it was. We only need a 4-part short. Forrest Gump correspondence. Dave's worst mistake yet. I almost felt like dragging Dave by the hair into the studio
on his break
just so he could face the music on this one Alan Partridge writes, I love your show, Alan. Dr. Dave, you owe Forrest Gump an apology. Gump did not jump in the reflecting pool as you accused him of doing. In fact, it was his friend and future wife, Jenny, who jumped in whilst Gump was speaking from the podium in front of the Lincoln Memorial. Gump may have been many things. A vandal wasn't one of them. It's going to... I know Lockie's just not believing this. He's going straight to the video.
Going straight to the footage. Play the tape.
You run it as overlay, please, Lockie, and you'll see that we're watching it right now.
Here we go. He says, Jono. She's going, Forrest.
Yeah, no, Jenny's...
He's running over. She's in the reflecting pool.
She's in the reflecting pool. Does he ever step foot in the reflecting pool? We're about to find out.
3, 2... He absolutely does.
The answer is...
Splash.
He does! Alan Partridge, you owe Dave an apology.
To think you almost dragged David to say, you forgot Forrest Gump.
Someone else actually suggested the same thing, but Alan Partridge did do it with more style. So, Alan, you're the one who gets to apologise in style. I'll read out to Dave the first step back. Don't apologise. I mean,
Never.
It never...
The apologies come from Chaz.
Yeah, exactly.
In his self-flagellation segment.
It only works one way. It only works one way. Take a note from Trump. You never apologise. Leave it to me. Okay. That's all the correspondence. Now, I need to go through one thing before we start with Woofers, the Woofers interview, and that is I need to go through the housing bill. I know we talked about it a bit in the last PEP, but Dave and I had a bit of a misunderstanding. I thought he was going to go into detail, and he thought I was going to go into detail, so no one went into detail. I just sort of awkwardly went, Dave, is there any more? And he kind of tried to bluff, and then I tried to bluff, and then we moved on. And look, we could just, I could just not draw attention to that. No one commented about it. I could have gotten away with it. But that's not my way, Lockie.
No, it's not.
And I am damned if I'm going to let the only piece of policy in this godforsaken administration pass without any actual coverage of policy.
Set up the sting.
So, yay! There you go. And I've already done the interview with Woofers, and we spent half an hour talking about this, so I'm definitely going to set it up. I thought I'd give you more detail now, hey? Housing prices, they're going up. I mentioned this on Planet America. Housing prices since 2000 have been going up at about 1.7 times the rate of inflation. If you look at that beautiful graph I'm just showing you now. And at the peak of the housing bubble, before the GFC, prices had only increased by 1.5 times the inflation rate. So they've increased by more. Not just objectively more, but even relative, it's because compared to the inflation rate. Okay.
So not only was I wrong for not buying a house in 1995, I was wrong for not buying a house in 2012.
That's true. Man, you should see the numbers back in 1942. You really missed an opportunity there, Lockie. And just to put some numbers onto those hikes in prices, home prices have increased 54% nationwide since 2020. That's not adjusted for inflation. Since 2020. That's not adjusted for inflation. There's been a lot of inflation. But my point is they've gone up a lot, right? People are looking at 54% going, whoa! According to Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies, they released a 2026 State of the Nation's Housing Report. The median sales price for a single family home was 4.7 times the median household income. So the income people earn per year, 4.7 times is the cost of the single family home, the median, whereas it averaged 3.2 times the median household income through the 1990s. So it's gone from 3.2 times the median household income to 4.7 times the median household income, becoming more expensive for people. The result of that is only old people can afford houses. And if we look at the next graph, in 1980, the median age of home buyers was 31. That is the black line that you're looking at there, if you're looking at the graph. In 2010, the median age of home buyers was 39. And in 25, to 2025, it was 59 years old.
Wow.
They've gone from 31 years old, the median age of home buyers, to 59 years old. Okay, that's old.
That is steep and old.
And it's jumped up a lot. What was it like? 45 in what year is that?
45 in
2020.
2010.
Yeah, what about 2020?
And then in 2020, it was also 45.
Yeah, so it's 45, the median age of home buyers in 2020. And in 2025, it's 59. Yeah, so that's jumping up very, very rapidly. If you look at that graph, look at the red line. Even the median age of first home buyers has increased from 29 in 1980 to 40 now. So that's going up as well. It's tough to buy a house, okay?
I don't like that it's going up faster than I age.
Yes. That is a good point. Good observation. It's tough to buy a house and it's tough to sell a house. There's been a housing slump for over 4 years. Last year, sales were essentially flatlining at a 30-year low. Sales right now are about 4 million a year compared to the historic norm of about 5.2 million a year when there were less people. So right now is not a good time to buy or sell houses. This might be why a bipartisan policy centre poll found 79% of voters said housing was an extremely or very important issue, while 83% said they agreed Congress should take action now to make housing more affordable. That is why this bill exists, the bill being the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. What does it do? It does a lot. First of all, the big news is about investors, corporate investors in particular. That's what people are talking about. It bans corporate investors who own at least 350 houses from buying any more single-family houses. And the idea of that is that if you get these companies showing up at auctions, they bid up the price. So remove them from the auctions, removes competition for housing, and it reduces home prices. This is a bipartisan policy. Elizabeth Warren likes it. Trump himself pushed this policy at the State of the Union.
With us tonight is Rachel Wiggins, a mom of two from Houston. She placed bids on 20 homes and lost all of those bids to gigantic investment firms that bypassed inspection, paid all cash, and turned those houses into rentals, stealing away her American dream. She was devastated. Stories like this are why last month I signed executive order to ban large Wall Street investment firms from buying up in the thousands single-family homes. And now I'm asking Congress to make that ban permanent because homes for people, really, that's what we want. We want homes for people, not for corporations. Corporations are doing just fine. Rachel, thank you very much. Good luck with your home. You'll get one soon.
So there we go.
Yeah.
Cynical people say bipartisan policy is usually bad policy. In this case, I'm not thrilled with this particular policy. These companies only account for 1 to 2% of the nation's single family housing stock. Okay?
Sure.
So removing them is not going to make a huge difference. 3% of single family rental properties, which is another thing I don't like very much. They own more single family rental properties than single family housing stock. What that means is when they buy them, they're renting them. They're not keeping them, not stashing them away. People are living in those houses, right? And so the people who live in those houses, they're taking away demand from other houses. So these people, as long as they're building houses, which, if they're in the business of property, hopefully they are building houses, then that's good. Building houses is good. You want to reduce the pressure on housing demand, right? But having said that, to the extent that this works, that's how it works, by removing competition at auctions.
Yes.
That's the main policy people are talking about. But there's so much more. There's a lot of over-regulation in the housing sector. In particular, strict zoning makes it hard to build apartments, especially in places where you want to build apartments. Like, there's no point building an apartment out in the sticks. No one is going to move into an apartment out in the boondocks.
Out in Gosford.
They're just not going to do that, right?
I'm from Gosford, I'm allowed to say that.
Where they want an apartment is near a railway station or in the city or in in an area where there's lots of people. That's where they want an apartment.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where they're zoned to not build apartments. Okay, so you could have so much more accommodation if you remove those zoning requirements and allow people to build apartment blocks in areas where people want to live. Sure, the people who live there wouldn't like that so much. But, you know, do you want housing prices to drop or not? So the bill encourages local communities to change zoning. It will help them if they want to reform outdated zoning regulations. The bill will help them with guidelines and assistance and even a bit of funding if necessary to help them, encourage them to reform outdated zoning. So that's good. Changing zoning is good. The bill also provides money for communities to turn abandoned infrastructure into affordable housing, like, you know, warehouses and stuff. Like if you walk around Melbourne, it's hard to throw a stone without hitting a warehouse that's turned into some funky new den. If you're in the city, that's good. That reduces demand as well, reduces the pressure on demand. Lengthy approval processes can create huge delays. Like in San Francisco, it takes an average of 523 days to secure permits for a housing project.
Wow.
It's a lot of days. A recent National Association of Home Builders study estimates compliance and fees comprise 24% of new home prices. Now, we need a disclaimer here. Did you hear who conduct that study? The National Association of Home Builders. They have a certain conflict of interest when it comes to that study, okay? But my point is, with 24%, probably a bullshit number, but I think their point is not an unreasonable one.
Sure.
There are costs. Right? And this bill also will allow for deregulation opportunities that even Elizabeth Warren can accept. Like, for instance, right now, all manufactured housing has to come with a permanent chassis so it can be transported. Transporting your house?
Yeah, on what?
Yeah, like people aren't turtles. You don't need to transport your house. Okay, I get it. Every now and then someone's going to move from one city to another and they like their house a lot and they want to take it with them. Good. You can spend the money on that if you want. But you shouldn't make every single person have to pay for a chassis on the off chance they're going to do something weird like move their house. That costs $5,000 to $10,000. That's money that poor people don't have for their houses. So this bill removes that requirement. That's good. Saves money. Environmental reviews. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have environmental reviews at all. I'm just saying if you can make them more efficient, that's a good thing.
Sure.
This is what this bill does. It allows builders to skip environmental reviews when a housing project is going up between two buildings that have already gone through similar environmental reviews.
Okay.
The environment is not going to be different between those two buildings.
What? I don't know, Chaz. What if the reason they haven't built between those two buildings is a 600-foot ravine?
Maybe. Well, then this
Great
bill,
reason not to.
This bill will become a disaster then.
Oh no.
But yeah, this is
Yeah,
allows
no,
you
I
to
get
skip that environmental review. Another one that you can skip. This bill allows you to have standard housing designs that can be pre-approved. So if someone just builds, just basically just buys a home off the plan, that's already pre-approved.
Don't have to get that checked.
Don't have to get checked.
Yeah, okay.
And what that means is that saves them a huge amount of time and money, which will make more houses get built, which would be great. So that's what this bill does as well. Also, affordable housing is financed, it's a bit complicated, through things called public welfare investments from banks. At the moment, banks are restricted from investing more than 15% of their total risk-adjusted capital and surplus in public welfare investments because they don't want to have a subprime situation again. We have too many risky loans. Like when you're talking about poor people, they're riskier loans than rich people, right? This bill will increase that to 20% of their risk-adjusted capital and surplus. So you combine that with low-income housing tax credits from the Big Beautiful Bill, because they've got heaps of them, and you combine that with the fact that adding 100,000 people to the rental assistance demonstration program, you're going to end up with many, many billions of dollars being invested in affordable housing from the private sector. not from the government, from the private sector. Also, until recently, banks didn't really bother making small loans of $100,000 or less because they didn't make money out of them. So they just, if you wanted an $80,000 loan, tough luck, mate. Just not getting it. So what that meant was people had to buy more expensive houses. If you're poor, not a lot of houses cost $90,000, right? But if you're in a rural area and it's an old house, it might. They couldn't buy them.
Too bad.
Because they couldn't get finance.
You to get the mansion, pal.
Yeah, well, maybe not the mansion, but you have to get
No, I get.
You have to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
$120,000 or $130,000 or $140,000.
Yes.
Which is harder for them to afford, harder for them to buy. Prices go up. Wasting that $90,000 house that could have provided accommodation. What they're doing here is they are trying to encourage more small loans. They don't know how it's going to work. So what they're doing is they're trying out a program they're trying a bunch of different strategies to try and incentivize those small loans. And whichever one works, they'll throw some money into it and do more of it, which is, I think, a good idea. Now, that's only 3% of active listings, these small houses.
Sure.
Small loans. But still, it's something. And it's for the people who most need the help. That's an important 3%, right? And this will incentivize also more of those small homes, those small loan homes to be put in the market. Why would they put in the market at the moment if they're not going to be able to be sold because people can't get finance? More likely to get put on the market. So that's good as well, especially in rural areas. Also, this extended disaster recovery program for the poor, which had lapsed. So that's good. Like if there's a disaster, they get more money. So anyway, that gives you an idea of there's lots of small ball stuff, right? It's not going to cost much money, but it will hopefully open up a lot more investment in affordable housing and make house building cheaper, at least to a certain extent. I don't think it's going to change the world, but it'll do something.
It's a start.
Hopefully. Is it going to happen? As Dave said during PEP, the Constitution stipulates that from the moment the bill hits the president's desk, he has 10 working days to sign it, or it automatically becomes law. What Dave didn't say, and I didn't know because I hadn't read at that point in time, if Congress formally adjourns before the 10 days is up, the bill's dead. It can get re-voted on, but it's dead. Whoa. The question is Congress going to allow that to happen?
Surely not, if it's such a popular bill.
Yeah, and if Trump comes up to them and says, I don't want that bill, what are they going to do? I know what Mike Johnson will do. What will John Thune do? I don't know.
No.
And then if they do that, what will the Supreme Court consider a sufficient adjournment to kill the bill? Because we don't know. This is an open question. The bill actually hit Trump's desk on Monday, like just now.
Wow.
July 4 is the next few days. They're taking a break. Is it going to be an adjournment? What kind of adjournment is it going to be? I don't know.
No way.
This is potentially going to kill the bill. The question is, does Trump even want this bill? We know that Trump was blackmailing them to vote for the SAVE Act with this bill, right? That's fine. Well, it's not fine. It's terrible. But if he wants the bill, but just wants to incentivize them to pass a SAVE Act, that's one thing. If that's just a pretext to kill the bill, that's another thing altogether. Why would I think he would want to kill the bill?
I was about to ask.
Yes. Well, Trump is a real estate agent, a real estate guy. He's a real estate guy. He's a property developer.
Yes.
He likes rising house prices. This is what Trump said at the beginning of the year.
Existing housing, people that own their homes, we're going to keep them wealthy. We're going to keep those prices up. We're not going to destroy the value of their homes so that somebody that didn't work very hard can buy a home. We're going to make it easier to buy. We're going to get interest rates down. But I want to protect the people that for the first time in their lives feel good about themselves. They feel like that they're wealthy people. And I want them to understand it. There's so much talk about, we're going to drive housing prices down. I don't want to drive housing prices down. I want to drive housing prices up for people that own their homes. And they can be assured that's what's going to happen.
Trump often, when he expresses an opinion, you go, well, that's bullshit. He doesn't really think that. He thinks that. That is his real opinion. I'm sure of that.
Yeah. Yes, he absolutely does think that.
I mean, I'm sure of it. I mean, just listen to him. Like he wasn't waffling.
No.
He wasn't talking crap. He wasn't doing talking points. He was just expressing a very lucid opinion, which he's clearly held
Yes.
for decades.
Yes.
And that opinion is people work hard to own houses, and people who don't work very hard are whinging about houses being too expensive. That's his opinion.
Yes.
And why would I help out the bludgers when the people and then punish the people who work hard? That's his actual opinion. So, does he want to kill the bill? Because this bill may, to a small extent, reduce the price of houses. This is not the only time he's said something like that.
Okay.
Back in March, according to Punchbowl, he told House Speaker Mike Johnson behind the scenes, quote, "No one gives a shit about housing." That's when they were first dealing with his housing bill. Trump advised him to not prioritize it for that reason. Yesterday, this is what Trump said about the new housing bill.
Your plans for the housing bill, Mr. President, are you
I don't know. I think it's so unimportant by compared to the Save America Act. I think the Save America Act is exactly what it says. It's saving America from crooked elections. And the housing bill is a bill that can get approved. They worked on it long and hard. It's very bipartisan. That means the Democrats like it. I think it's maybe even it's probably maybe more that way. They're getting things that I wouldn't necessarily agree to.
Will you sign that housing bill?
I have not. It hasn't been sent to me yet. It's coming. I understand, and then I'll make it. Here's what I would like to sign. Much more than a bill. That big deal. It's a yawn. Some people say it's wonderful. To me, compared to the Save America Act, just about everything is a big yawn.
He doesn't sound super enthused about the bill, does he?
He does sound like he is trying to emphasize the greatness of the Save America Act.
That's true.
Rather than him expressing an opinion on what he thinks the cost of housing should be.
That's true. The emphasis there is clearly pass the Save America Act, not pass the
bludgers shouldn't have houses. Yeah.
So look, my point is this. I don't know what he thinks. That's my point. If he wants to kill the bill, there is a way he can get that bill killed.
He can, yeah.
I don't know what he's going to do. I think he'd be insane to not pass this bill from an electoral perspective. But I don't know. I just don't know what he's thinking. So I'll just put that out there.
If I was jumping in his head, I would say he loves being popular. He loves being able to say, I gave you something good, and this is an easy win for him, which is why you're saying it'd be insane not to.
Yeah.
And I see him changing his mind on that element, even though he could hold the opinion that, people shouldn't have houses if they're bludgers. I see him backflipping on that opinion.
You may well be right. We will know by the time we return.
We will.
One thing, by the way, just before we go on to woofers, I went through that fat drug section before just to set up something that I want to roll over now.
Okay.
Which is, I think was one of the more irresponsible moments I've seen from a congressional politician this year. This was Ted Lieu, Democratic House Rep Ted Lieu, talking about Trump not signing the housing bill.
And then all of a sudden, Donald Trump decides he's not coming to sign the bill. Well, why is that? Did he wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Is he unable to stay awake today? What's causing him to chicken out again? Is it Taco Wednesday? Or is it side effects from a drug? We don't know. This erratic behavior of the president is very concerning. He has trouble staying awake at multiple White House events and cabinet meetings. He has clearly some weakness in one of his arms. He's got swelling in his hands. And the White House needs to come clean. What we know is there's a report saying that one person in America got this special new drug. It was a 79-year-old person who's very high profile, and this drug can only be given to someone under the compassionate use provision, meaning you do that if someone basically has a terminal illness. So we need to know, did Donald Trump get this special drug from Eli Lilly? And did he get it under that provision? And if he did, why is that the case?
That is pathetic.
It's a little bit of a long bow.
It's a lot of a long bow. It's an extremely long bow. You can't use that bow. The arrow will just fall to the floor. Not only had the White House already specifically denied that Trump was the one who took the fat drug at that point in time.
Yes.
That was days after the denial.
Okay.
But nothing that Ted Lieu said there even made sense. He completely, needlessly implied that Trump might be on death's door as a troll, as obviously a troll.
Yeah.
Right? And that's shithouse, because you shouldn't play games with that kind of thing, especially when you're dealing with an elderly president. Just remember how annoying it was when trolls were doing that with Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. Turnabout's fair play. Yeah, okay. That was worse than the stuff that they... you didn't get Republican politicians holding press conferences saying that shit.
Okay.
When under Joe Biden. He's gone further, right?
Okay. I didn't know that.
Also, White House Communications Director Stephen Chung's response was just as bad if we ever look at it as a tweet. Ted Lieu is a dumbass. He probably spent hours laughing to himself, thinking that peddling this lie would be funny. Sadly for Ted, there's no special new drug to cure being a bitch. That's pretty poor. But my point is that Ted Lieu is also pretty poor. And I generally quite like the guy, I have to say. I'm quite fond of him generally, but that to me was depressing. It takes a truly abysmal effort for Stephen Chung to occupy the high moral ground in an exchange. But somehow I think Chung actually comes out on top, given how rock bottom Ted Lieu was there. So anyway, that really annoyed me. So I just wanted to back over that. I played a tiny bit of that on Planet America, but I didn't play the bit about the drugs.
Didn't have the context.
It would been too hard to set up. So I just wanted to set up here for you guys. You get the special PEP treatment.
It does feel a bit like point 20 of every Trump story, which is, but he's dying and he's got dementia.
There is that as well. That's true.
We can keep adding to this.
5 parts to the short. Do you have anything else to add before we move on to Justin Woofers?
I do not, because I want to get straight into Woof Central.
Okay. I'm going to drop in some economics talk into the Woofers interview, because towards the end we were starting to speed up a bit, and so I just skipped over a bunch of shit. And so I will interrupt at times to set up some economic stuff for you guys, just to give you some details. But other than that, enjoy what was a really, really fun interview for me. I really hope he wants to do it again. And he, at one point in time, actually says, I'll see how the comments are. You know what to do, Peppers.
Best behavior.
Yeah, I definitely don't bully the guy, but just lots of comments about how much you enjoyed the interview and how much you're going to now go to Platypus Economics because of the interview. Lots of comments in the Platypus Economics section. So to get him back, if you like the interview, if you hate the interview, then don't comment at all. But I think you'll like the interview because he's awesome. Let's go, Woofers. Justin Woofers, thank you for joining us.
Chaz, a great pleasure to be here. I'm going to tell you something funny that happened.
Yeah.
A lot of people told me I had to come here and talk to you guys. It was all over my YouTube comments. They said, talk to Chaz.
I wonder where that came from.
I don't know, but it felt crazy because then just a couple of days later, I got an email from your producer saying, hey, do you want to talk to Chaz?
What a coincidence. I
know. I'm mind blown, but I love it.
I did actually tell the Peppers to not hassle you, but they do have a mind of their own.
No, they didn't hassle. They expressed love and appreciation and a sense of brotherhood about the whole thing. And, I think they just wanted to bring us together. And that's beautiful.
That is beautiful. Thank you, Peppers.
Yeah, thank you, Peppers, because without you, this moment would never have happened.
That sounds like an admission that you were hassled into talking to me, but that's okay. That's all right. That's all right. We'll just carry on and pretend that wasn't the implication.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No, I'm not. No.
Joseph, before we get into talking about actual economics, not just men's feelings, although we might get to men's feelings, let's see how we
Let's
go.
talk about men's feelings too. I love that.
I love
that.
Look,
I love how you lead with vulnerability. So many people would be like, tell me about GDP, and you're like, men's feelings.
I want to tell you about my childhood, Justin. No, I actually don't. But if you have anything you want to add about men's feelings, now's the time. Let's just get started.
I'm going to take you seriously. Yeah? It's not very often I'm in an interview and someone says, tell me about men's feelings. But first of all, thank you for being here for me tonight so that you can cure my part of the male loneliness epidemic. It's so kind of you, and thanks to the Peppers.
You must be so lonely if I'm curing it. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, mate, modern masculinity is hard. No, I want to, because I don't often get a chance to talk to an Aussie audience, and I've got something I'm very excited about when it comes to men's feelings, and I do want to share it with you. Yeah. There is a group called WNow, wnow.org. You can find them online. Okay. And it's fabulous. It's men who want to be better men. Now, I hesitate deeply to say I'm part of a men's group because of all the associations. This is not that, right? This is so lovely. I happen to chronic. It's beaches across the country where you turn up at 6 a.m., with a bunch of other blokes, often middle-aged blokes, and you do about half an hour of exercise, and then you get in the circle of trust. And Aussie men learn how to talk about their feelings.
So what are you doing? How are you participating in this from Michigan? Do they just put a laptop on the beach?
So when I'm in Sydney, I get to my local beach. I was in Sydney most recently for sabbatical. I was there for either 6 months or a year. And I'd go down to the beach every morning. And then after we talk about our feelings, we'd run in the ocean, clean all that emotion off us, and then go for coffee. And, well, you know a lot about what it's like to be an Australian man. There's a lot of things you don't talk about. And this was bloke showing it's okay to actually talk about it. So I'm very proud of them. I love them. And I just recommend it wholeheartedly. That
does sound good to me. I got to say, that does, in all seriousness, that sounds very much like something which I do, but it's not a group like you've just described. Yeah. It's just CrossFit. And the only difference is
really?
We do everything you just said, except for after we've done our knee by jumping on boxes for about half an hour, completely flogged ourselves, lay on the ground just panting, and that's when we go through the experience you just described.
Really? You sit there and you're like, I just did 400 wall balls. Let me tell you about trouble I'm having at work.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I do think exercise breaks down your defences a little bit. I also really like the way you swiveled to, look at me, I do CrossFit. That was terrific. Can you do the rest of the... If you feel like it, it's up to you, Chaz, but you could take your shirt off for the rest of the interview and just let those enormous pecs of yours bulge, twitch, and just boast for you.
I'm 100% getting naked during this interview, just article by article as we go on.
It's going to be so good.
Actually, I'm in terrible shape because I actually did my knee from all the CrossFit, and so I tore my meniscus. So I'm not in the best shape right now, but she'll be back. Don't worry.
Next time.
Next interview.
I'm going to ask the Peppers to keep an eye on how handsome you are, and when we're ready to do the article by article version, I'll be back.
They won't forget. I might, but they won't. Maybe we should talk economics.
I actually have some expertise there, so maybe.
Okay, now, but before I talk to you, just before, I went through a brief description of the housing bill with the Peppers, just to explain what was going on. And I actually talked about the actual policy, which is very rare when people are talking about the housing bill. They talk about anything but the policy generally. But I want to ask you, how much of a problem is housing costs in America, in your view? Because one of the stats I cited was that the median house costs 4.7 times as much as the median income, at least according to a Harvard report from last year. But in Australia, it's like 8 times as much. So, is this a case where it actually is bad, or Or is it just Americans whinging a bit like they do about petrol?
Everyone can be a little bit right here. Just because Australia has it profoundly painful doesn't mean that other people are not struggling a bit. And the disease is very much the same disease, actually. So first of all, actually, I just want to congratulate you for actually talking about the policy. I'm going to tell you, I've been in the US the whole time, and I'm an economist, and I've literally not heard someone do that once. Not once. No, it is problematic. It's not uniformly problematic. So one thing that's different between Australia and the US, Australia, we all live in the capital cities. And then I know a bunch of angry peppers from, Hill End are going to write in and tell you that they're not, but they're also statistically insignificant. But I did go for a very good second grade school excursion there, so thank you for your hospitality. But, so Australia's all in the capital cities.
Yeah.
The US has essentially infinite small cities, of which I live in one. And the housing problems are very much problems of the house price problems of large urban areas. And so it may be that the problem is less bad on average in the United States. In fact, it is true. It still may look a little bit like Sydney or to look a lot like Sydney when you go to San Francisco.
Yeah.
If you go to Manhattan, and then you can just sort of add cities from there. Let's spend a moment on the economics of that, because that's actually very exciting for me that we get to talk about that.
Go for it.
Here's a simple way of thinking about the economics of the Manhattan housing market. Manhattan's a small island, very, very small. They're out of land. And it's basically impossible to wheel a crane downtown to build up. So there's just a fixed stock of housing now in Manhattan, which means the way you want to think about that is, if you ever took Economics 1, it's a vertical supply curve. There's just so many units, that's it. Nothing's changing, even if the price of them goes up. So if you've got a vertical supply curve and we keep getting increasing demand as Americans get richer and richer, it just means the price of those houses go right up. That's one kind of housing market. That's actually a lot like what Sydney and Melbourne look like. Now, in Manhattan, the scarcity is quite natural. It's a small island. But you get Manhattan dynamics in San Francisco where it's not an island. But what's happened there in San Francisco, you've got NIMBY politics, people who basically go to the local council and scream and yell about any house getting built. And so you get the same result. You can't build a house in San Francisco the same way you can't build one in New York. But they're the same in that respect. The thing that's different is one of them, it's physical, the other, it's purely regulatory.
Yep.
Now, building a house in San Francisco is roundabout as hard as building a house in Sydney. That you get, maybe in some of the suburbs it's possible, but if you're in the North Shore, if you're in the eastern suburbs, you try and build. I'm not going to admit that we sometimes spend time in Mossman, but if you try to build anything there, 17 neighbours will try and see you into oblivion. And so even though there's plenty of room to build up along the beach or in or further along down a beach, basically the Sydney and Melbourne real estate markets look like the San Francisco one, which looks like the New York one. It's all the same disease. You're never going to be able to fix the New York one, but you should be able to fix San Francisco. You should be able to fix Sydney.
Yeah.
Now, that's one form of housing market. And so when people, I'm a centre-left economist. I know in Australia, centre-left economists never use the word regulation, or they never say it as a bad thing. That's a thing for the right-wingers to do. But this is a case where the regulation just makes it impossible to build more beds for more people, and we keep having more people. Even a centre-left economist can get upset about that. That's what's happening in the parts where housing prices are really problematic. Now, the other thing is there's a whole lot of the country. I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is a small dot outside a small circle called Detroit. And right around the university where I live, houses are quite expensive. But if you go 10 minutes out of town, it's still farms. So it looks like what Dural used to look like when I was a kid.
Gotcha.
Or Cherrybrook. And what that means is you can basically build whatever the building cost of a house is. Let's say it's $300,000 for the bricks. You can build infinity of those for $300,000, which means if you want a $1,000 profit margin, then there's so many developers who'd be willing to build you basically infinity houses for $301,000. So what you get there is literally a horizontal supply curve.
Yeah.
Which then means any increase in demand creates only more building but no price appreciation. And so most of Australia's population is in cities that have essentially vertical-ish supply curves. That's pushed up the price of housing. Half the US lives in places that are essentially horizontal, which means there's no price pressure, and half live where it's essentially vertical, and that's where the US has cities that are more expensive than Sydney.
Yep. It's funny you mentioned a few things, to pick up a few things you mentioned there. The first of which was you were talking about San Francisco. I specifically cited when I was talking about the bill. I think it was. I think off the top of my head, I think it was 583 days was the average wait for an approval of some kind of housing unit in San Francisco, which is just
if you get one,
insane.
Right.
And, secondly,
but don't yell at San Francisco without having a good close look at your local government wherever you live right now.
Yeah.
Because there's vast tracts of Sydney that look a lot like that.
Yeah, sure. I won't be yelling. But secondly, on San Francisco, I haven't spent, certainly not nearly as much time as you have in America, but I've been in America for a combined maybe 4 weeks in my life.
That's terrific. So you're a renowned expert.
Yeah, that's
no
right.
No wonder you run a show on it.
Exactly.
How about you run a show on America and I'll run one on Australia?
That was literally the only qualification the ABC asked. They said, have you spent more than 3 weeks in America? I said, yes. They go, okay, you got the job. I spent about 5 days in San Francisco, and ever since then, when an American asks me about Australia or Sydney in particular, I say, Sydney's just San Francisco without the homeless people. And I do think that they have a lot in common. Like, I did feel very much like I was at home when I was walking around San Francisco. They felt very similar. But and I should say, Sydney now has the homeless people as well, but not as many as San Francisco.
I think Sydney is San Francisco, Melbourne is Seattle.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I haven't been to Seattle, so I'll take your word.
Seattle's a great coffee town. Melbourne's a great coffee town. Both are sort of to the left of their big brothers. Both are sort of funky, outdoors, cool. So that was meant as a compliment to Melbourne. Although, Sydney and Melbourne beaches are enormously better than being in the ocean on the American West Coast. Easily so. And then the other analogy you should be looking for right now is Canberra, Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And it's not.
No.
Washington, D.C. has lots of people don't like it for the reasons they don't like Canberra. Yeah. But it has the highest concentration of economists per square foot of any place on earth, which means if you're me, you regard that as terrific. And if you're a normal functioning human being, you might not.
Sounds like my kind of place.
You love it.
The other thing I was going to pick up on as well is just something you mentioned in passing about the endless mid-sized cities in America.
Yep.
You'll be shocked to hear that I like to memorize cities and populations. And I couldn't help noticing when I first started going through American cities, I was just shocked that when I grew up, I always thought that places like Chicago would be way, 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 way bigger than Sydney and Melbourne. Like, it'd be like these were tiny cities compared to the massive American cities. And then I was sort of shocked to find that, the big cities in America, I mean, not New York, obviously, and not LA either, but other than that, the big cities in America are either the same size or smaller than Sydney and Melbourne.
Yep.
But they just have, genuinely, 150 cities that are 400,000 to about 900,000 people, just one after another, after another, after another. It just goes forever. It's
So I think the Australian, as an expat, you become very aware of certain Australian traits. So I've been asked 400,000 times about tall poppy syndrome. Let's not talk about that. But the fragility of Australians about their own place in the world doesn't make any sense. So Sydney is my home city. Sydney is a truly international city. It's one of the world's great cities. It's one of the world's most beautiful cities. The food scene is unbelievable. It's a genuine centre of commerce and culture, and a true population powerhouse. And, look, New York, Manhattan falls behind the moment you go visit Sao Paulo in Brazil, the moment you go to any of the 20 bigger cities in China. So they get bigger than that again. So even that, there's sort of, but the cultural cringe of Aussies that you were like, oh, this will be so much bigger than Sydney. Manhattan is meaningfully different than any other city in the US. But beyond that, I'd put Sydney right next to any of them.
Yeah. And on that note as well, I mean, we don't want to turn this into a parochial podcast, but on that note as
I
well,
love it.
Australia is like 12th in the world in GDP, despite being a relatively small country when it comes to population.
GDP overall or per capita?
No, overall.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I come on to your podcast to learn these facts. That's terrific.
We're not far off Russia. Like Russia,
Because we're a middle power. Okay, so that puts us, we're a serious middle power.
Yeah. I think Russia from memory is number 9, and we're probably, I reckon, a decade away from passing them. So
or another few bad days with Ukraine.
Yes, that's true. But onto I was conscious of how much I've got to ask you about, but with the housing bill, I mean, I went through to some detail before, as I said, but I'm interested in the actual detail. Do you think it will actually do anything? And do you have like a favorite provision or a provision you think really sucks? I mean, because this is one of those. This is the only bipartisan piece of policy from the last 2 years. So there are going to be things that Democrats hate and things that Republicans hate by the nature of a bipartisan bill. So do you have a particular provision you like or hate, and do you think it will actually work?
A few thoughts. So one, it's not going to be a big deal. There's 2 reasons why it's not going to be a big deal. The first is it involves no money, and money makes the world go round. The second is it's the wrong level of government. The federal government the reason you can't build in San Francisco has nothing to do with the federal government. It's got everything to do with the state of California enabling San Francisco city governance. You've got, you do see the same issues very much in Australia. And the federal government can't solve a lot of our problems because there's nothing the federal government could do that would lead Mosman Council to issue another housing permit ever. The state government could take them over and more or less is doing that. Wrong level of government, no money. But wow, it's exciting to see that the US has a Congress. I was really excited to learn that. Apparently there's 2 houses and it passed through both of them.
I know.
Quite bizarre. Look, having housing in the discourse, we want to solve this so that, in the way I told the story, the bastards are the NIMBYs, not in my backyard. The people, it's also often not just the local governments, it's the local mums and dads who more often are grandmas and grandpas who are like, I like my suburb how it is, please don't change a thing. And it's a recognition that is essentially them saying, I don't want to share. I'm in a lovely neighbourhood. I don't want to share it with you. And it's not okay. And so I think that that side of it, which is none of the legislative provisions, just it's symptomatic of the political debate moving beyond it's okay to be a bastard like that to actually we want to come at you. So, what would matter is if that same political intensity were to hit state and local governments, then you'd really get some action out of it. You asked for a specific favourite or unfavourite provision. I think it ended up in the bill, the Elizabeth Warren stuff, where they want to prevent, private equity from owning housing?
Any institutional investor that has more than 350 properties already can't buy more single family homes.
So that just struck me as mostly dumb. Now, many in your audience would probably be like, no, that sounds good, and I get it. But maybe it's not totally dumb, but that's not the problem. And so creating a lot of commotion, spending a lot of political capital around the problem just isn't going to get you anywhere.
It's like 2% of houses they own. It's not a lot.
Yeah. Right. And if you prevent them from owning, do you know what some of those companies do? They're the ones who build the apartments that people rent. The basic outline of the housing crisis in any city is not that house prices are too high, it's that there are fewer bedrooms than there are people. And if you create a few more bedrooms, whether they're rental or purchase, the broader economics will keep price and rent somewhat in some sort of a ratio. So I don't care whether you're bringing online rentals or stuff for people to buy. I think in equilibrium, that's a fancy word. I think over time, it'll just all work out that if the underlying problem is the number of bedrooms versus the number of people, more bedrooms is always a good thing.
Gotcha. Let me ask you actually on a sort of more general point then. I'll just throw in one thing, which is one thing I do respect about this bill, and I agree with you that you're the expert, not me, but I also feel like it's not a game changer by any stretch of the imagination. It might make a little difference on the margins. But the one thing I do like about it is they're not going, okay, let's throw $1 trillion at this thing that we can't influence and just pissing money down the drain. I like that what they're focusing on largely in this is trying to incentivize better regulations, like deregulating and incentivizing local areas in, as you say, producing more investments and beds, rather than trying to pretend they can control things they can't control. I think it's actually realistic in their ambitions.
I want to double down on that and then try and translate what you just said into economics in case some of your audience speaks my language rather than yours. Yeah. Every politician's greatest temptation when faced with a housing crisis is to subsidise demand. We'll have a first home buyer's credit, we'll make interest tax deductible, we'll blah, blah, blah. It's always about, we'll make housing more affordable by picking up some of the bill for you. Here's a very simple way of thinking about why that's wrong. The biggest problem with Sydney house prices is you go to an auction and there's a dozen people in the front yard bidding. Now, what if the government came up with a great new solution that meant you move from 12 people in the front yard bidding to 15? Do you think they've solved the problem? That's what demand-side policies do, right? Anytime you increase demand, you lead to more people with a greater willingness to pay. And if we're in a world in which, back to what we were talking about earlier, supply is essentially vertical, you can't build anything. All you're doing is creating higher house prices. Yeah. And essentially, it's a big subsidy to landowners. And so it does nothing. So the big realization, and you're seeing this in the US now, this is a big part of the so-called abundance movement. Even respectable centre-left economists will now say the problem with housing is a supply problem, not a demand problem. That, by the way, is a fact that's doubly true in Australia. And so any time a politician says, oh, housing's too expensive, let me throw more money at people to buy it, you should yell at them and say they've gotten it totally wrong. And so what you see in this bill is a recognition that it's a supply problem and an attempt to loosen up supply. And, if more of Australia's housing policy pointed that way, if this argument were intellectually successful, people on both the left and the right would just say to a politician, no, we're not interested in demand policies. It's all about supply.
My final question in this area before we move on to a different area is more a broad one. And I genuinely don't know the answer. This is not me setting you up for you to say something I already think. I actually have no idea. If housing continues to get more expensive, both in America and in Australia, and it continues up that gradient for the next X decades, whatever it may be, where does that leave us in 50 years' time? Because those boomers who have all the property are going to die at some point in time. Does that leave us with an aristocracy? The people who own the property and just keep on passing on to their children and just rent it out to everyone else? Or does this leave us in some other area? Does it get spread out in some other way? Like, where is this going? Because it can't keep on going forever. So where does it go?
So we know where it's gone in Australia, and I think it has implications for the US. And remind me to come back and say something about education. Okay. So, where's it gone in Australia? It's not just that houses are expensive, it's that you got to put 10 or 20% down to buy the house, and 10 or 20% of a shit ton of money is more money than most young people can put together. And so what you're seeing is an increasing norm that Australian parents put down the deposit for their kids. And that's exactly, that's what house prices do. When house prices rise, the folks who own a house just got richer, and the folks who don't, in a very direct sense, got poorer, right? Because realize the problem with being born, most of us are born naked. We're not just born naked, we're born without a house. So we're actually born short housing. We will need a house, a roof over our heads every day of our lives. Mum and Dad's going to get the first 18 years, but then I still need another 60 years worth of housing, but I don't have any. So every time the house price goes up, I just became poorer because this asset that I'm short on, that I have a negative position on, just got more expensive. So it's a very direct redistribution from young to old. If you went all the way, then youngs would never be able to afford anything. That's not going to work. And so what we have ended up in Australia is olds now find themselves rich. I often joke when I'm in Australia, you meet someone who's fairly comfortable in their 60s or 70s, and they got rich the old-fashioned way. They bought a house 40 years ago. It's a problematic way of running an economy, by the way. Wouldn't it be good if you got rich by showing initiative, hard work, innovation, and instead what we have is a whole parasite industry around this particular form of gambling. And I say gambling because the same number of bricks and the same number of bedrooms are there. All that's happening is we're flipping a coin and the old keep winning and the young keep losing, and the real estate agents keep driving BMWs. So, what we're seeing then is the olds are paying for the youngs. And so you use the term aristocracy. I think of that as being the richer, richer, and the poorer, poorer. I want you to think about a different term, which is intergenerational immobility, which is to say how correlated are my life outcomes, or how determined are my life outcomes by the family into which I was born. In a world of opportunity, of perfect opportunity, my parents' situation would have no impact upon me. If we're in a world in which the only way to get a house is for my parents to own a house, then that means we've become more immobile, less opportunity. This is not the same thing as inequality. It's the term we'd use is immobility, intergenerational immobility. And I think that's the thing I worry about right now for Australia is intergenerational immobility, because the folks whose mum and dad got rich the old-fashioned way of buying a house, they're going to be able to get into the housing market. And the folks who grew up in rentals or in public housing are not going to be able to. Yeah. I promise you I'll bring it back to education because we've seen that norm occur in Australia around housing. What's fascinating is actually we have a competing norm in the US about a different but equally important financial asset, which is college degrees. So university degrees in Australia cost you HECS, whatever your HECS costs you. You can pay it back slowly. You don't have to go to the bank to get a loan. The tax office will give anyone HECS. And there's a lot to like about that as a system. The US doesn't have that. And so I'm not unusual for someone in the United States. It's most likely that when my kids go to uni, I'm going to pay for their college. That's probably going to cost me. I've got friends who are going through it now. My kids are a bit young still. They're paying about $100,000 a year. And so that feels a lot like the norm of the dads in Australia who pay the deposit for their kids. And actually the magnitudes are not that different. If you think about the value of a degree, one estimate is over the course of your lifetime, having a degree is worth an extra $1 million relative to not having a degree. And that was US dollars. So for those back home, $1.5 million. So the value of that asset, that piece of paper and the human capital and the knowledge and all of that goes with it is roughly the value of a house in suburban Sydney. And in both cases, those investments are only possible through the intergenerational transmission, which means that if mum and dad weren't in, you're not in. Yeah. So we see a similar unfairness over here. It's just playing out in education rather than housing.
Although what I would say is that the Australian version of what you just described is a little bit more fixed because people are always going to want a house. But the American one, let's see what happens after AI is really kicked in 10 years' time or 15 years' time. Because I already know people who, I know some youngins, I don't just hang around 50-year-olds. I already
Amazing.
know. Sure, they're my daughter's friends, but still, I already know some people who aren't going to bother going to university because they're just like, what's the point? I'm just going to get replaced by a machine.
Yeah, it's interesting for me to hear how that debate's playing out in Australia. I play something of a role in the AI labour markets debates in the US. And I will say there's a fairly sharp understanding that the world's about to change, that the role of education in our future is very unclear. And then I want to admit something to you, which I think gives you a sense of the lack of clarity, which is people ask me all the time, they're like, well, my kid's about to go to uni, what should they study? And I find it, remember, I'm a labour economist, so I sort of do this for a living. And I find it really easy to tell them what not to do. Don't study a language because the last interpreter has been hired.
Yeah.
There are deep questions, but a lot of the American kids are jumping out of coding. And if you've spent any time coding with AI, you'll understand why. But what's funny is at the end of the conversation, I just realised I picked out a bunch of occupations they shouldn't enter, but I haven't said what they should do. I think that's telling. That someone who pretends to have expertise will admit that he doesn't have a clue. I don't think it necessarily amounts to the nihilism of don't do anything. But it's not obvious your daughter's friends are wrong either. I think they're probably wrong. I wouldn't make that choice myself, but, you know.
Well, I should say, the girl I'm thinking of, when she mentioned that, I counselled her to not do that. I said she was wrong.
Yeah.
And the reason I said she was wrong is I said, I don't know where this is going. I'm not going to pretend I know where this is going, but this is what I do know. I know that the last jobs to get replaced by AI and robots are going to be jobs that involve other people, number one, because other people are always going to prefer another person rather than a robot to do something that involves them, like, say, a counsellor or, say, a masseur or something which is personal and person on person. The person is always going to be preferred. I'm not saying forever, but I'm saying that they will be replaced long after people who are doing calculations and things. Like, machines are going to do them right away. But teachers and counsellors and therapists and people who are people on people, they'll be replaced last. Number one, and number two, the people who
do you want to slow down and do you want to dig into that one a bit?
Oh, if you want to, yeah, go jump in, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Let's go through some of those examples.
Yeah.
So first of all, you might say doctors.
Yeah.
Well, so first of all, a few years ago, you would have said taxi drivers. And
Right,
now I mean,
sure I would have.
they drive cars and they talk to you.
Yeah, but
okay, maybe you
I
wouldn't
want
have.
them to shut
Maybe you
up.
wouldn't have.
I don't want to talk to a taxi driver.
But don't you want them to steer?
No.
I guess that's not a person-on-person part of it. Right, I got you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So
If you take a
the one
doctor,
they-
sorry to interrupt you. That's a really, really bad form from me. But let me just take the doctor example because
let's do doctors,
because I know where you're going there with the doctors. We already, even now, AI diagnoses people more accurately than a human doctor does.
Yep.
Right. That's cool. But some people go to the doctor to be diagnosed. Some people go to the doctor for human contact. like that's a real issue. And people go to it's a real cliche. People go to the GP to talk to someone about the fact they're not feeling very good. And to say, there's this and there's this and there's this and there's this. And they're not going to want to talk to an AI. They're going to want to talk to a human.
Your excitement to talk about feelings, I mean, it's just been an ongoing theme. It's all you want to talk about. So first of all, if people are going to highly trained Australian doctors and allowing Medicare to pay the doctor $200 an hour so that they can have someone to chat with, we ought to fix that. You can hire a social worker at a much, much cheaper price. Yeah. I'm not being funny.
No.
I'm totally serious about that. And I'm going to take you as serious that people do go out because they want to have a chat and they want human company and stuff like that. But you don't need 6 years of medical school to be lightly entertaining to an 80-year-old. There are other ways of curing the loneliness epidemic.
Okay, so let's take the therapist example then.
Yeah, well, so we'll stick with doctors and then
Okay,
we'll move to
sorry,
therapists.
yeah,
I think it's really interesting. So, the most interesting study I've read on this is one where people were asked to email their symptoms to the doctor,
Yeah.
and then the doctor would email back.
Yeah.
What they didn't know is that half the time, instead of sending it to a doctor, they send it to ChatGPT. And then they looked at they sent the whole thing off to a board of specialists, and they looked at which was most accurate. ChatGPT was most accurate. Easily the most accurate.
Yeah.
Then, that's not surprising, right? Then they said, who do you think rate the bedside manner and the interpersonal skills of the person who responded to your email? ChatGPT won that too.
That's good. That's a good
Now,
start, yeah.
you can think about why, and I happen to know why. My brother's a doctor.
Yeah.
And he gets tired. When he gets tired, he gets cranky. And it's not just about my brother, but I've also met his friends. And, you don't have to have the best personality to get into medical school.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be invited out by them next time I'm in Australia now. But
Look, all I'd add to that is on the who becomes a doctor, let me remind you what my nickname was at school. Robot. There's a reason for that. I'm the kind of person who becomes a doctor.
Well, we're selecting on HSC scores, not on... I mean, we're not quite, but yeah. I mean, back in my day they were. But so that's kind of interesting. And, if kindness or interpersonal skills are performance, then that performance can be done better, at least in text, by machines than by people. Now, you're going to say, oh, I don't want performance. I actually want a doctor who looks me in the eye and cares. Okay, well, right now, Chaz, you and I are on Zoom. Is this Justin or is this a Justin bot talking to you right now? In 5 years' time, you won't be able to tell. And more or less right now, you can't tell. In which case, I think it's a hard question. So that's doctors. And I'm going to now admit you're right. Let me give you a different answer, which is I've talked to people. I've said, I've read these studies. They show that ChatGPT does a better job than your doctor. Why don't you just go to ChatGPT? And they say, no, I still want to see a doctor, which to an economist is deeply puzzling, which is they say, I could have the truth or I could have a random guess that might be right, and I would prefer that. Yeah. That, I think, is your strongest defense, that people are not like that. They don't like doing this. Now, let me also say, if you go back 200 years and you said to someone, there's a machine where you can get in it and it'll go really fast and it will fly in the air and it's okay that you'll be 1,000 feet in the air, you won't die, they'd probably say, I don't want to get on that. But I caught a plane yesterday and I felt very safe.
That's true. That's very true.
So these are sort of, these are socialized.
Well,
and I think therapy's fascinating. So because we're talking about our feelings and vulnerable models of masculinity today, Chaz, and I appreciate you for that, I was talking to my therapist today. I didn't say I'm nervous about talking to you tonight, or if I did, he's not going to tell otherwise, is he? But he's a very, very talented therapist, very skilled, and so he's actually a psychiatrist because I'm that crazy. So he had to do 6 years of medical school, and then he had to do a psychiatric specialty in which he read, a lot of really thick books, many of them, and then he did sort of an apprenticeship where he sat around while other patients talked to a daddy doctor while he was the baby doctor listening in. And out of all of that, he now knows that when I say something to him, he should say, and how did that make you feel? But if you think about what a large language model does, it's read all the thick books. And his apprenticeship was sitting in on, I don't know if it was 10, 100 or 1,000 sessions, but ChatGPT could sit in on millions. And it seems impossible to believe that a computer could be useful at therapy. It's so personal. It's so human. It's the heart of who. When I'm talking to my therapist, it's my deepest fears and the heart of who I am. And I never am more human than when I'm doing that. But when I think about how he acquired the human capital in order to be able to say sympathetically, yes, anything else, I think a computer could probably do it. It seems implausible computers won't be better at it in a technical diagnostic sense.
I tell you why I disagree. Look, I agree with what you just said. Okay, a computer can definitely go yes and then how does that make you feel? And tell me about your mother. Like a computer can definitely do that, and the computer can definitely study the textbooks and just nail it in a way a human can't. But what I was about to say, and this does relate to this, is that the last, and also let me emphasize, I did say the last jobs to be replaced.
I know. I play. There's a little bit of a linguistic slippage here.
I mean, there may well be a situation where there are no jobs left. Like that may be the situation somewhere down the track. But I'm just saying the last jobs to be replaced. Yeah. I think the last jobs to be replaced will be the jobs that involve judgment rather than knowledge. Like the knowledge is something that you can get from Google, which is what AI can give you. Judgment is not something you can get from Google. Judgment is the ability to go through the 20 top searches and know which one is best for your purposes. But Google spits out 20 searches. And what AI does is AI takes in all the searches. So not just 20, takes in tens of millions and then does the numbers. But judgment is not about doing the numbers. Judgment is about a vibe. It's about an instinct, which I don't think is about the numbers at all. And I think, and look, I know when I type in anything which I'm an expert on, which is American politics type stuff, into AI, it gets it hopelessly wrong every single time. Like I know that for a fact, because people always ask me. They go, the most common question you get asked is about the tall poppy syndrome. The most common question I get asked is, why don't you get AI to do your reading for you? Because everyone knows that I read a million articles, and that's exactly what AI should do. And that's the reason why I don't get AI to do my reading for me, because I find AI pathetic in terms of applying judgment. Like when I do my reading, the reason I do my reading is to get as many angles as possible, like AI does. But then I apply my judgment for what I think matters and what I think is relevant and what I think is bullshit and what I think is well, if you twist that around to this and you turn it around 90 degrees, then you get something that's worthwhile. And that's from trial and error experience that you don't get from just crunching numbers. And look, at the end of the day, at one point in time, that's not going to be valuable to people. And increasingly over time, like for instance, the way people used to hand make furniture, sure, they made a better chair than IKEA will ever make. Sure, but at some point in time, people like me today go, I don't give a shit about a handmade chair. I'll take the slightly lower quality one that's really easy and really cheap and does the job. And maybe in 20 years' time or 30 years' time, people aren't going to want my judgment of American politics. They're not going to give a shit. And the value of that extra judgment is not going to matter anymore. And forget American politics. We're talking about any job now, like as a whatever, as a lawyer, as a therapist, as a whatever. But I think to the extent that people value the outcome of their therapy or whatever, then that edge in judgment of the good people, not the mediocre people, not the people who say yes and, but the guys like House, those guys. Oh, that guy. The fictional guys. If people value the product at all, genuinely, then they're going to pay extra for that extra judgment from the good people. And the only way you get that judgment is by getting as deep an education as you possibly can. You don't know what you're going to use that education for. You don't know what job you'll be doing in 20 years or 30 years' time, but you know the more you learn, the more experience you get in different areas, the richer your judgment is. And I think that's the only way that you'll be the last people to be competing against AI, is my theory.
My favorite thing about this interaction was that I noticed the quieter I was, the more you spoke. My second favorite thing is that you said there are two things AI can't do: the distinctly human connection and judgment, which happen to be the two things that you're strongest in. I think that's actually.
Thank you for thinking that I'm a human.
Yes. But I think that actually that generalizes. And when I talk to most people, what they do is they pick out their own skills and they're like, AI can do lots of things, but it can't do what I can do.
Yeah.
So think about the intense humility it requires to say AI can do everything I can do. And I will tell you, on the cusp of name dropping, had dinner with Bill Gates 3 nights ago. And Bill Gates said, the thing I devoted my entire life to do, coding, computers can do it better than me now. And I admire that ability to see beyond oneself. And so a question is, Chaz, one possibility is you're right. Another possibility is you're wrong and this is just a bunch of defensive judgments.
Yeah.
And I think a really important question to ask is, which is it? And like, I know that Gates didn't fall for this defensive judgment thing, and I fear that we humans do. So you gave quite a riff about the value of judgment. You'd never trust computers. So have you ever had a local beach where there was recently a shark attack and thought to yourself, I better not go for a swim?
Well, that's not a great example for me personally, but let's pretend I have. Yes.
Right. So the answer is many people have,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Or, someone got a leg chopped off, a few months ago in the eastern beaches, and folks on the North Shore stopped swimming.
Yeah.
The number of shark attacks per year, shark deaths per year worldwide is 5. In the United States, the number of people who die on the roads per year is 50,000. The chances of losing your life to a shark are so close to zero that anyone who ever doesn't go for a swim because of a shark, I mean, unless they're chumming the waters right around you, right? And you're wearing your SEAL suit and all of that. Yeah. So that's an example of human judgment being profoundly flawed. And if I were to ask ChatGPT, it would probably figure out that swimming's pretty safe and that sharks are awesome. And so, look, we're not going to win this argument by anecdote. I just wanted to highlight to you how weak human judgment is.
Yeah, look, no, I think that's totally fair, and and especially when it comes to numbers, like when it comes to probability.
Everything's
analysis.
a number, though.
Oh, I don't think.
No. So now I want to come back. If you concede the computers when it comes to numbers, I'm just going to say, well, everything's numbers.
I don't think everything is a number. I don't.
Name a thing that's not.
I think
a flower is a bunch of petals. How many? 6 petals. What color? Pink. Pink is hex code number CD1E3F.
I think opinions aren't numbers. I think irrationality isn't a number. I think that when you're dealing with people, they're dealing with irrationality. So your opinion, that's a very, very good example. So you have an opinion that the president is fat. Seems reasonable, right? An LLM codes that as a vector. It literally codes that in vector space as a set of numbers that fully encapsulate that opinion, or the language in which that opinion is expressed, I should say. But it expresses it in a space that is basically about various forms of meaning. Look, we're both having fun here. You said I get numbers, and then I said, well, everything could be quantified, and then you get to prove that you have an arts degree, and I'll prove I have an economics degree. Am I right? You have an arts degree? I got a science law degree.
Oh, wow. Well, you should be on my side.
I should be. Yes.
I was just guessing and engaging in gross stereotyping. I'm sorry. And
ironically, I'm actually arguing against my own purposes a little bit, because of all the people you could talk to and say everything's a number, I'm actually probably the best person to say that to.
The guy called Robot in high school,
and the
might
guy
be someone,
and the guy who did well at English because I treat it like maths. And in fact, my entire comedy career has been maths. I can talk to you about how to write a joke like it's maths.
It'd be amazing.
So,
I'd love to learn to be funny. Can you teach me that?
Yeah, I'll tell you the formula, the mathematical
Okay.
formula. But I won't
Love
tell,
it.
I won't tell in front of everyone else, otherwise I'll become unemployed.
Okay.
But
All right.
but I mean, like, so I do actually get where you're coming from. But look, and if I'm being honest, you're being very convincing. But I'm not 100% convinced.
And I'm not. Look, just because I say words doesn't mean they're true or that I believe them.
I know.
But
I know. I understand entirely about arguing at cross purposes to your own beliefs. I totally get it. It's all good.
Yep.
I do want to move on though, because I'm just conscious that we've got a lot. I mean, look, we're not going to get through it all.
I have a
obviously.
feeling you wrote down some things you wanted to talk about, and we probably got to none of them. Is that right?
No, we've got the the AI was fresh, but yeah, look. I mean, the bottom line is you clearly enjoy talking, which is nice, which means we can do this again. So it's all right. It's okay.
Only when everyone's in the comments, mate. If they're not in the comments, I'm not coming.
You heard him, Peppers. Hassle him. Well, next question for you, though, is a completely different topic. I want to move on to, well, just briefly, I want to touch on Social Security, because I've been talking about this a bit recently, and this is an area which you know more about than me. We've been talking a bit, well, actually, I've been talking about it for about 10 years, but other people have been talking a bit about the impending moment when Social Security moves into the red, which is obviously not far away, 3-4 years, depending on how you crunch the numbers. We saw last week Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Moreno came out with their plan of essentially removing the cap on income that is taxable for payroll tax that pays for Social Security. At the moment, the tax is it cuts out at $184,500 income. So if you earn more than $184,500 income, you pay payroll tax up to $184,500 income, and then anything you earn above that, you don't pay payroll tax for. They have suggested removing that cap, which, look, I mean, people can crunch the numbers different ways. My understanding is that will probably close half to 2/3 of the funding gap, which is not nothing. It's a start. It's not everything. Obviously, benefit cuts are a possibility. Increasing the age of when people retire is a possibility, which is effectively a benefit cut, but whatever. Also, you could just run bigger deficits. You could just go, hey, we'll just have bigger deficits. We'll just pay more on the credit card for Social Security. First of all, do you think that the Social Security crunch is an actual problem, or do you think people are making it a problem for excuses for cuts? And if you do think it's a problem, how do you propose it best be solved?
Right. Yes, it's a problem to understand. And so something has to be done. Let me explain. The legislation that set it up. So look, Australia has two different retirement plans. We have the old age pension, which is if you're a bit poor, the government will just send you money because we don't want you to be poor. And we have superannuation, which is your money goes into your account that has your name on it. And so it's very confusing, I think. I've spent 30 years trying to learn Social Security. I still find it confusing. The American system is neither of those things. So look, here's how it works. You put in money, there's a formula, and it says at the end you get to pull out money. And because it's a formula, and in order to try it, and so stated that way, you get money at the end. It's a bit like our old age pension, so it's a bit like an entitlement. But of course, we saw, particularly during the Hawke government, anytime they wanted to change the pension, they just did. In the US, having the government play such a big role in people's lives just isn't politically sustainable. So what they do is they sort of say very clearly, this is your account. You're putting money in, and if you retire tomorrow, this is how much you would get. So the American voters think it's Social Security. In reality, it's a lot closer to pensions, which is actually they're just sending the government checks, and the government's sending them checks because the legislation exists and they feel like it. But the important thing is the politics of this is it's like superannuation. So imagine that, the government said to you, we're not going to give you superannuation until you're 70. You'd be pissed. It's like my money in my account, you're stealing from me. Well, that's how Americans feel about the whole game. There's one other thing that's super weird about it, which is how it's funded. So when you put money in your super account, it literally goes into an account. And now the next part's metaphorical. You can think of it as they put it in the vault and you come back 50 years later and you get it out of the vault. That's metaphorical because they're going to invest it in the market and stuff. But it's basically in a vault. That's not how Social Security works. When I write my check to Social Security, and I work for an American company, it doesn't go into any vault. So the way the system works is Social Security is a bank account. I write a check, it goes in. There's an old person at the other end. They're pulling money out. There's no balance in the middle. Now, having said that, that's not quite right. Now let me explain why it's not quite right. If there's a lot of young people and not many old people, which is what it was when Social Security was born, then a lot of people putting money in, not many people taking money out. So therefore, actually, you'll build up a bank balance. That bank balance is called the Social Security Trust Fund. And it exists completely separate, not complete, largely, substantially separate from the government budget. Separate as in they write a separate set of accounts, they have it audited separately, they write a report on it separately. Completely not separate because at any point in time, the government could just say, I want all that money. It's just not politically sustainable. And remember, the government's told everyone, actually, it's kind of like superannuation. So in a period in which you've got lots of young people paying in, not many old people taking out, the balance rises. That's Social Security Trust Fund. And then what happens? Right now, we've got fewer young people and lots of old people. Worse, old people live a long time now. And so not so many people putting in, a lot of people are pulling out, and so the balance is going down. When the balance gets to zero under the current legislation, the Social Security Trust Fund can't borrow. And I want you to notice I said under the current legislation. So if this were a functional democracy like Australia, so something's not working, let's fix it. And as much as you might be frustrated with Australian governments, they still do that. Yeah. Here, the default is nothing happens. So then it doesn't, Social Security going bankrupt doesn't mean no one gets paid. It just means the amount that goes out the door has to be equal to the amount that's coming in the door. And I think you might know the estimate better than me. I saw it recently. It's something like how much? 28?
78% is the...
Yeah, you get 78 cents on the dollar. Yeah, so you'll get they can cover 78% of the payments. So that means everyone will get their payments they'll get 4/5 of their payments, which would, remember, these are old people near the poverty line. This would be, and they feel that it was theirs. They keep getting sent these statements saying this is your Social Security balance. They're going to howl if that happens. So when you said, does something have to happen? Socially, it would be very bad for low-income old people to take a 22% cut overnight. Politically, it seems unsustainable for that to happen. Someone's got to do something. Economists have known that this has been coming. You said you've been talking about it for 10 years. We've been talking about it for 30. Because the thing about demographics is if you've got a bunch of young people, you know that in 50 years, they'll be old. It's just not that hard. And you know how many babies are going to grow up and be... And so we're now 6 years away, which means that the folks we elect to the Senate in the midterms, this is going to happen on their watch, which I think really brings it home because that's point one. Point two is no one's talking about over here. What you just said in your intro to this segment was the most serious Social Security analysis by a media figure I've heard in months. Because I don't know if you're aware of this. We have something of a circus going on right now. And lots of other things are filling the front page. And so for my entire 29 years I've been in the United States, I've never seen it either be more precarious or take up less political oxygen than it is right now.
So what do you think should be done?
So there are lots of options. I think my view about which one's best is lightly less interesting than just sort of talking about the economics of the different ones. Sure. I'm not being a politician, I can tell you, but I was just like, I'm not that interesting. Yeah. The issues are interesting. So, one is at the moment you pay Social Security on the first $100 and something thousand of your income, which means that middle class folks pay it. It's paid as a tax. Middle class folks are paying it on all of their income. The rich only pay it for the first 170,000.
184,500.
Look at you knowing facts. You'd be great over here, mate. You should join the American punditocracy.
They'd be bored by me.
All those facts, they'd hate it.
That's right.
Plus, you keep changing the subject to talk about your feelings. So there's that too. So, a very prominent set of ideas on the left is let's tax the rich more. That's sort of Elizabeth Warren's idea. The latest thing that came out, that's paired with, well, if we're putting more in, I'm the one putting it in. And if I'm thinking in a superannuation mindset, then the rich should also get more out. And so if you did pair them like that, it actually doesn't do very much to solve the shortfall. I do think so then you could also just raise tax rates, the payroll tax that funds Social Security, which is sort of like our equivalent of the superannuation levy, right? If super was having trouble, you'd just raise the super levy. So it'd be that. You could just raise that. One thing to be careful of is that it's a flat tax, so it's not redistributive in a useful way. And then the other thing is to just admit, I think, a very important reality, which is when Social Security was founded, you were meant to hit 65, start taking Social Security and quickly die. And quite literally die within a few years. That was the normal experience of most people when Social Security was founded. Now you hit 65 and you've got 2 and maybe even 3 decades left. It's not a system built for funding a third of your life or, a quarter of your life. It's just not built that way. We are hitting 65 in much better physical condition. So, pushing it back to reflect the reality that 65-year-olds are still capable of work. The forms of work we do today are not toiling away on the farm or logging or working in the factory. It's sitting at the keyboard typing furiously. These are more consistent with longer careers. So that's another possible solution. Where will it actually end up? Probably with some sort of dumb compromise.
Yeah. I was going to say the problem I've got with, you didn't come out right out and say it, but what you were talking about there was about increasing the age of retirement, right?
Yeah.
The problem
you can retire younger, you just have to fund it for yourself. So if you think about the foundational idea of Australia's pension system, it's you can have as much money as you want when you're old, but if you want us to look after you, it has to be because you have need.
Yeah.
Whereas here it's an entitlement that, everyone expects to be substantially supported by this system.
Well, I was going to say, and it's interesting you said that, and I've never heard it described like you just did just then. And obviously you were talking like that because you're talking to an Australian audience.
Yeah.
And so Americans don't normally describe it like that because they're not you're talking to an Australian audience. And so I never really thought, like my instinct, because I'm Australian, is just, it just means test the bloody thing. Easy. But what you're just describing, that would be an absolute outrage because people go, you're just taking our money away from us that we've paid in.
Every year you send me a balance showing how much I've got.
Yeah.
And more than that, it then becomes forget which words Australians use and which words American use, but it becomes a form of welfare.
Yeah.
So the old age pension is part of our social welfare state in Australia. It's something that I'm proud of, that we get to keep elderly people out of poverty. My grandma used to get it. I love that for her. I love that for the country. I think it's just a magnificent thing. In a country that is immensely distrustful of government and of redistribution, and where much of the population harbours resentments towards other parts of the population that may be benefiting from this system, welfare, the Americans use the word welfare differently, so they would call it government assistance, has a very, very different political resonance. And so were you to take the Chaz theory, which is make it like Australia, you would very quickly end the old age pension.
Yeah. But I was going to say that the reason why I personally get nervous about raising the age of retirement is because what you used to describe before, perfectly rational. People living 30 years, having more desk-bound jobs, makes perfect sense to begin the payments at 70 rather than 67 or whatever it is at the moment. Sure, I got no problems with any of that, but I don't have a number off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure, well, I can tell you vaguely without giving you the exact number, that the life expectancy of the lower class, the working class, is very different to the the life expectancy of richer people. And I think, it very much depends on race as well. I think the lower class, so the working class life expectancy is 71 for men in America. It might be 70. And I think if you're talking black working class, you're talking 69 or 68. So they really are still dropping dead as soon as they retire. And I hate the idea of the people who need it most being forced to work until they drop, because we want to pay 25 rather than 28 years to the rich guys on their keyboards who are doing just fine for themselves and don't even need it. Like, that just drives me crazy. And so whenever people start talking about raising their retirement age, that's the first thing I think of, even though financially it makes perfect sense. It just seems to defeat the entire purpose of why Social Security is there.
Let me say, I think this is actually a really rich and useful discussion, and I just want to highlight to folks at home what the form of how that worked, which is I was describing averages and then you moved to describing distributions. And so I'm not going to defend my view against what you just said. What I was saying is, on average, for the average American, the statistical average is a very good case, blah, 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 blah. And then you said for important subsets, the distribution of consequences are unconscionable. And I think the truth is any good analysis does both. And so my guess is that I found you convincing in roughly equal measure to that which you might have found me more or less convincing. There are stories where what you do is you change the retirement age for blue collar versus white collar workers. They're a little easier, partly because they can't keep working to 70. Those stories are a little easier to work out in theory than they are in practice. The nice thing about what you said is you talked about a specific problem and you described it as being traceable to specific demographic characteristics. That then says there exists a way of designing a system, right? If the computer says you're about to die, I'm going to give it to you at 55. And if the computer says you're going to die in 100 years, I'll give it to you at 80. Good luck writing that legislation, and even more good luck getting it passed, partly because you know which group votes.
That is true.
But what's beautiful about the way you're thinking about it is you're not starting with what's politically feasible. You're starting with what's a good thing to do. If you followed your logic, by the way, I think you'd keep following it until you got to the Australian old age pension. Which you would be totally comfortable with we're there to help out those who need it, and you don't want to do a lot of subsidising of those who are going to live forever and comfortably.
But as you say, that might not be translatable to America, sadly.
Yes. I mean, what's striking to me is I remember when the Hawke government, I was a young bloke in Australia, as were you, when the Hawke government decided to means test the old age pension and many other government programs. And what they did is they woke up and I thought, that's a good idea. And then they wrote a law and they passed it. And that was it. That series of events is unimaginable in this country right now.
Yes, it is. Now, Justin, I can keep on going for a long time. That's not a problem. We certainly have the airtime to fill. That's fine. I'm conscious of the fact that it is currently 9:15.
Getting close to bedtime.
Yeah, it's going 9:15 for you. So, I'll give you two options, and you pick. And honestly, it's fine either way. One option is we finish in 15. One option is we finish in an hour. You tell me.
Mate, I'd love to have the space to be able to do it in an hour, but my family would kill me. So we're going for 15.
Okay, all right, okay. So
also I have some stuff I have to write tomorrow.
That's
still
totally fine. I don't want to be cheeky about it. I just want to make sure we work to your deadlines, because I'm on holiday. This is how I spend my holidays.
I am too, for what it's worth. This is not my Michigan house. I'm up by the beach right now.
We got that in common as well then. Okay, so rather than just taking you through every little bit of inflation and all that kind of stuff, we can do that some other time. I'm going to ask you general questions to get the most.
The good thing is my typical answer seems to be about 15 minutes, so choose your questions well.
What I want to ask is, the first thing I want to ask is, I will go through after we're finished. In fact, I might even insert it in the middle of this interview. Hello, folks. This is Chaz from the future with Lockie from the future. Hey, Lockie.
Hello.
And yes, I am now going to just cover all the stuff which I just skipped past, and which I'm skipping past right now in the interview, and I'm going to make it all assumed knowledge. So I am going to tell you about it right now. We are, as you can see, inserting it in, and then the interview will flow after that. First of all, let's talk about the bad stuff. Inflation is the bad stuff. I've got a graph here of all outlets, Platypus Economics. The headline CPI inflation right now is up 4.2% for the year, which is twice what it's meant to be. That's the Federal Reserve is trying to keep inflation at 2% or so. So that's twice that. It's still a lot less than Biden's 9% back in July 2022, as you can see from the graph if you're looking at it. But that's still becoming substantial, 4.2% for the year. 60% of that inflation was because of higher energy prices from the war. And the way you can know that, or around that at least, is if you look at that same graph, you'll see the other line is core inflation. And that's a lot less than 4.2% at the moment. That's 2.8%. And you see how the two inflation lines, core inflation and headline inflation, basically split off at the beginning of 2026. Core inflation is prices minus food and energy. So what that's telling you is that food and energy has flown up in the last couple of months. And that is because of the war, obviously. The oil prices are much higher and they get passed through into transport and food. So that's what's going on there with inflation. Last week, the latest PCE inflation figures came out, which is what the Federal Reserve looks at in particular. They don't look at the CPI because those numbers are a little bit dodge. They wanted to keep it increasing at about the rate of 2%, and it's 4.1% growth for the last 12 months, the PCE inflation. Once again, core PCE is up 3.4% for the last 12 months, which once again tells you that food and energy has grown more. Once again, because of the war. And if you look at the effect all this inflation is having on real wages, on this graph I'm showing you, if you're looking at the graph, if you're not looking, I'll describe it. We've got basically a flat line for wages, close to a flat line. But we've got an orange line for inflation shooting up in the last few months from well below wages growth rate to well above wages growth rate. So what that's telling you is that wage growth is at 3.4% and considerably less than inflation, which means wage growth is negative. So that's what's happening. It's only in the last couple of months that people have been actively losing money because of inflation. Inflation's been eating into their wages, so their wages are buying less. And they're worth less, and that can make people pissed off. So that's all the inflation stuff. And in fact, the real wage growth for the entire administration so far is 0 now. So that's not great.
One way of putting it.
Yeah. People are exactly where they were a year and a half ago now. And then whereas during the Biden administration, their wages went up for a while, then they went down because of inflation, and they started going up again in the last couple of years. Overall, I think they're probably negative because of so much inflation in the middle of the Biden administration, which is one of the reasons they were unhappy. But right now, they're not doing too great either. Trump's been trying to spin these inflation numbers as much as he can, obviously, because they're not good. At one point, he resorted to this lame spin you might have seen on the news.
Are you concerned, Mr. President, about the latest inflation number which came out this morning? Could that be a
No, I love it. The numbers look great. You know what I really love? I love the inflation. You know why? Because as soon as this war is over, I can say it now. Something you didn't know. Do you know we've been taking out millions of barrels of oil? Nobody knows it. You know who doesn't know about it? Iran, until right now.
Well, that was a pathetic attempt to try and change the subject from a massive negative into something else. Like you could see Trump, you can see what was going on in his head. He's thinking, I need to pretend this is positive because that's what I do. I practice the power of positive thinking. So I'll just go, no, I love it. I love the prices. They're great. I love inflation. And he's hearing himself saying that going, what a stupid thing to say. I need to change the subject fast. And so then he just changed it to a complete non sequitur about taking oil out of Strait of Hormuz without Iran knowing, acting like this is some big scoop when actually if Iran didn't know about it, then they don't they're not peppers because we talked about them PEP like weeks beforehand. and it's not like I have spies in the Strait. I was just reading the newspaper. So it wasn't that well kept a secret. It's, but anyway, but he was just trying to change the topic, right? And then in the New York Post, he tried to sort of cover up a bit, going, I love the inflation numbers because of what I'm talking about. The numbers are going to be phenomenal because what's showing is that despite the fact that we're in a war, the numbers are much lower than anticipated. And when we're out of that war, the numbers will be at lower numbers than they were even before it started. Oh. Look, inflation's not good. Good luck, mate. I was actually going to ask Woofers about, one of the questions I wanted to ask him was why did inflation not get above 4% when it was 9%? During the Ukraine war, which had a much smaller oil shock. I'm sure Biden's spending's got something to do with that, but Trump's been doing some spending too. So I would be interested, but we ran out of time.
Get him another time.
Yeah, another time, yeah. I'll tell you as I go a couple of questions I was going to ask Woofers, but I'll ask him another time. By contrast, the jobs creation situation, genuinely impressive. 172,000 more jobs in May. Here's another Platypus economics graph. Showing you all the recent jobs numbers. You can see the last 3 months, big positives. The last 3 months, April was revised up 64,000 to 179,000 jobs added. March revised up 24,000 to 214,000 jobs added. Now, look, you get good months and bad months. I never like to pay too much attention to one particular month because you might have a bad month straight after. But when you got 3 good months in a row, that's worth taking note of. Like that's a real positive. In fact, this entire year has seen jobs added an average of 114,000 a month compared to last year's average of only 10,000 per month. So last year was shit. This year is actually pretty good. And it gets better because yes, a lot of you listening to this will be thinking, oh, hang on, I thought under Biden there was like 200,000 jobs a month, 250,000 jobs a month. And yes, there was. But that was when America was coming back from COVID for a start. And so there were lots of easy jobs, people coming back into the workforce after leaving it for COVID. But more importantly than that, the total population was growing way faster under Biden because of all this immigration compared to now. Under Biden, they were pushing 300,000 new people in the workforce per month. 300,000. Now, it's more like 30,000 per month. Right? And so 180,000 jobs added under Trump is a lot better than 250,000 jobs added under Biden. Because they need 300,000 just to replace the people, just to find jobs for people who are coming in. Whereas under Trump, they're far exceeding the new people in the workforce. Far exceeding with the new jobs. So they're actually doing really well. To quote Trump from one of his typically restrained tweets, they always say April showers bring May flowers. Well, here in the hottest country in the world, in both April and May, it's raining jobs. Look, I wouldn't go that far. But it's a strong performance. The question is why? I can understand why the jobs dropped off last year. I can understand why the jobs sucked last year. Obviously, tariffs, we were talking about all last year, was having an impact. Immigration having an impact. Like when the net migration was only 410,000 for the whole year compared to a previous projection of well over 2 million. The real number might be even lower with self-deportations. Fewer people means fewer workers and potential shortages in supply. You can understand why the economy would have been sputtering. But why this big rebound during a war of all times? That's one of the questions I wanted to ask Woofers. I mean, like some people say, and by the way, it's not just healthcare. It's leisure and hospitality as well, growing at 70,000 jobs a month recently. Some people say it's because people are getting used to the new tariff rates and people are getting used to the new immigration rates. Like there was this shock when they first happened, but now the shock has kind of filtered through and we're returning back to some kind of stasis. That's what some people say. Other people say it's the big, beautiful bill, tax cuts coming through. I mean, it's not like, I'm not a big fan of the big, beautiful bill, right? I thought it was a shit bill. But if you're pouring sugar onto an economy, there's going to be a sugar hit. And we might be experiencing the sugar hit right now. Now, the problem is there's going to be a sugar crash after that. But right now, things might be looking good because of the big, beautiful bill. This might be the advantage. Is it an AI rush? The percentage, the amount of investment is off the charts, and it's investment in AI. Data centers. Data centers are creating jobs. Right now, while they're being built, then they won't be built, and then there won't be so many jobs. But the AI thing may be leading to a bit of a rush right now as well. I don't know. I wanted to ask Woofers next time. I'm going to chat to him if the job numbers keep on staying up. I'll ask his opinion then. Also, if we look at an unemployment rate graph, another thing I find weird. Look at the unemployment rate at the moment. It's 4.3%, straight line, 4.3%. It's not going up, it's not going down, which suggests that the jobs being added is basically just matching the people who are entering the labour force. But we know that's not the case because of what I just told you. Unless the labour participation rate is going up a lot more. So yes, there are fewer new people, but more people are coming off the sidelines into the workforce who were just hanging around doing nothing before. That might be the reason why. But let's look at the labour participation rate. I've got a graph for you here, Lockie. Click on that. And what you'll see is the labour force participation rate in the last few months has gone down. Ooh. It's gone down a lot. Just that little curve at the end of the graph there. So what the hell is going on? This doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Another question I had for Woofers. It's going to be another time. I have no answer. I literally have no answer to that one. I don't know. That's just my own observation. Where I just went, this is wrong. I mean, maybe the numbers just there's a bit of a there's just something. Numbers aren't perfect. Maybe there's just a little issue there, and that will balance out over the next few months. We'll see. But there's more. In the past 18 months or so, business formation has been surging. According to the Business Formation Report, the first 5 months of the year saw 2.9 million new businesses formed nationwide. The strongest 5 month start on record when we have low migration numbers. That's weird. And I mean, it's encouraging. It's worth noting. And the latest figures saw an annual growth rate of 2.1% GDP growth in the first quarter this year. That's an annual rate of 2.1% GDP growth in the first quarter, compared to only growing at an annual rate of 0.5% in the last quarter of 2025. Let's put a hold on that one because, as I said, one result doesn't mean anything. They go up, they go down. This could be a correction from the last quarter, and there might be a correction coming from this quarter. So we'll see. Private investment grew in this quarter at an annualized rate of 10.6%. That's got AI written all over it for me. That's the private investment that we're talking about there. Spending growth only at an annualized rate growing at 0.5%. So that suggests that things aren't perfect. I was going to ask Woofers where he was going to make what he makes of all that, but didn't have the time. Once again, somewhere down the track. Let's go back to Woofers for a second, and then we'll come back for a little bit more after a bit more of the interview. I'd like you to give your assessment. Well, firstly, I'd like you to tell me whether we can trust the jobs numbers, because
yes, we can.
We can trust it because they've been messing with BLS. With the BLS in the past, people at the BLS, so you'd be in a position to tell me, so that they're definitely trustable.
Totally. So now I'm going to do what I promised I'd do and give you a 15-minute answer. Yes. The American jobs numbers you can trust. The American inflation numbers you can trust. The American GDP numbers you can trust. Let me wind back. I want to make two more points. Yeah. Those are the official numbers from the official statistical agencies, which at least so far have had enough political protection that they started off life being in the truth business and they've managed to stay in the truth business. And I did a thing for Platypus Economics about this if you wanted to, go to a reliable source.
We'll put in the homework.
So, that's where I can add the bells and whistles, but you can trust it. Yeah. There's the second point I wanted to make is actually, I'm almost certain that on this show you covered when Trump fired the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is sort of like our director of the Census Bureau, of the Australian Bureau of Statistics, yes. David Gruen. Trump fired Erica. He then tried to put in place an absolutely craven toady who knew nothing about economics. But Lisa Murkowski said, no, not on my watch. And the part that almost no one has talked about is subsequently Trump went away and has appointed, certainly he just had his Senate confirmation hearings, a guy by the name of Brett Matsumoto, who you will not have heard of because he is a nerd. And within the nerd fraternity, he's a nerd's nerd. Like, he is exactly who should have this job. This is a guy who's completely committed to every piece of statistical architecture being exactly right. And so it's an interesting statement about how American political stories get told, that you heard Act 1, he fired the commissioner. You heard Act 2, he tried to employ the toady. Almost no one heard Act 3, and the institution's held, and we have the right guy in charge. Great. And it's an important story in that domain. It's not the story in every domain. The Department of Justice is a wreck. But in that domain, the institution's held.
Okay, good to see you guys again. When I'm talking about people being discouraged, disliking the economy, I've got the numbers here, I've got the graphs for here. Let me just back up what I'm saying vaguely and confusingly to Justin Woofers as I'm trying to summarize stuff very quickly for him. Here are the numbers. Okay, so first of all, this is the Gallup Economic Confidence Index. It's down to minus 45 at the moment, which is only slightly better than the minus 58 it hit in the middle of 2022, which was a low point in Joe Biden. If we split it up by party, you can see independents. The independents of the dotted line there, you can see the independents are minus 58, which is equaling their low, even of 2022. So what that's telling you is that it's not just a partisan thing. Independents are really hating the economy. Now, Justin noted that the Michigan consumer sentiment numbers have hit an all-time low. Can we go to the next graph there? This is from Platypus Economics, this graph. That's very low. That is much lower than any other period other than, like, we're going back 50, 60 years there until just before the 1982 recession. And even that was about 10 points better than now. Now's really bad. And 2022, by the way, was an all-time low before this, and this is an all-time low over from 2022. Wow. So, and Justin Wolf has noted in that same report, only 7% of Americans expect good times for business conditions next year. Only 7% rate current business conditions as better than a year ago. Only 13% expect business conditions to improve over next year. And 65%, a whopping 65% expect unemployment to rise over the next year, when I've just told you the unemployment numbers are fantastic. The jobs created numbers are great. And yet people are saying that unemployment, they expect it to rise. They're very, very pessimistic. Let's go back to Justin Woofers to find out what he has to say about that. And the second question I've got, sort of generally speaking, is this is a two-parter, I guess. The first thing is, how would you describe the economy? Would you describe it as a good economy? I mean, because obviously inflation is great, but everything else seems to be okay. And if it is indeed a decent economy, why does every statistic about people's judgment of the economy, to come back to judgment, that they hate it? And that they, like, that literally, I mean, you got a piece in Playboy's Economics about this, that literally they are the worst views of the economy ever measured at the moment. Why do people hate it so much?
Yeah, I think no one knows the answer. I just want to foreground that. So where's the US economy? It's earning a B in a country in which there's a lot of grade inflation. But I think the reality is, inflation is uncomfortably high. But the unemployment rate's 4.25%, which is, is fantastic. We're creating jobs. GDP growth is still positive. On and on the list goes. What's also true, and I have to be careful to say this, is an economy can be good even as economic policy is a disaster. And if you ask people their judgments on the state of economic policy, the share of Americans who think that economic policy is poor is not only at a record high, it eclipses all past records by a huge amount. So I can admit the reality that the American economy on average, and that's an important distinction again, is doing pretty well, and still say the trade war was dumb, cutting immigration was dumb, starting a war with Iran was painful, and trying to tear down the Fed was pointless. Trying to destroy the Bureau of Labor Statistics was bad. No, I guess. You ask the question. It is absolutely true that people say levels of consumer confidence are lower than they've ever been, and so they say things are terrible. I think it's important to say out loud the following: that's absurd. I remember the financial crisis of 2008 that in Australia we call the GFC. Things were really, really, really bad. I remember COVID. It was miserable. I don't remember very well the 80-81 Volcker disinflation. I was 8 or 9. But, people were really unhappy. You got double-digit unemployment. You got inflation coming down from, 12% to 5%. So the idea this is as bad as it gets is absurd. What's going on there? There are many different stories. I don't want to hit you with all of them. What I want to do actually is tie the episode together a bit. Remember you were talking earlier about the advice that you would give young people right now?
Yep.
In a moment in which AI has put almost every white-collar job under threat and many blue-collar jobs, none of us can see very far into the future. I feel a sense of unease. And I have a job where I can't be fired, literally cannot be fired. I'd have to sleep with the dean's child in order to get fired, and I'd probably have to take a video of it as well. So I feel tremendous unease. I feel unease for my kids. So you add the AI-related future-looking unease, and then you add the unease about how you feel about the future of the United States. We're not many months away from a midterm election where people are asking very real, very serious questions about whether the person who wins the most votes will take office, whether ICE will be with their rifles strapped to them outside polling places. So it's also not just a question, do they count the votes right? The question, as my democracy friends tell me, is are these free and fair elections in which, we're seeing freedoms of the press being distorted in very, very painful ways. So I think it's hard. It's easy to believe that that's some part of the story. There are many other stories. Okay, some of it is everything is so partisan now that my job as a centre-left pundit is anytime someone says how's the economy is to say terrible because there's a guy I don't like in charge. Now, I resisted that urge right now, but many people don't resist that urge. And that, I think, helps explain a lot of it as well.
On that note, I was just going to say that the thing I find most interesting, obviously, as time goes on, the swings between Republicans and Democrats, depending on who's president, they get bigger and bigger as America becomes more partisan. But it's interesting that, at least according to the Gallup Economic Confidence Index, independents are saying it's the worst ever as well.
That's also true according to the Michigan Survey of Consumers, which is the more standard measure. Now, there's a much harder question, which is who considers himself independent has changed over time. So a lot of what you would have thought of as being Romney Republicans would probably respond that they're independents. And so...
Yeah, no, fair enough.
And, that independent, another way of saying it, that independent category, we called it Never Trump Republicans. You would be less surprised. Is it Never Trump Republicans? That's a harder question as well. Is it the disengaged? I don't know.
So my suspicion, obviously, we don't know, but my suspicion is that there's probably a non-economic origin for those views as well. You mentioned some things. I think you could throw in the effect social media is having on people, and there's a few things as well.
Which I think is part of the polarization story.
I think people are when I myself find that when I'm tired, everything's worse. If I've stayed up all night, everything's worse. The whole world is worse, and I feel like the whole world's kind of tired at the moment.
I just came back I was at the Aspen Ideas Festival over the last week, and the idea that culture is part of this moment certainly seemed to be a resonant theme. You heard people like David Brooks and Fareed Zakaria saying the same thing. When I'm tired, I get cranky. and you feel tired, this is a very, very real issue for me in my life and for a lot of people in the United States. You wake up, you read the paper, you get infuriated, you think, those bastards, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure it's also true in Australian, partly when Australians are thinking about the president, but also partly when they're thinking about their own politics. One of the things that I do to not go crazy and not to be unusually grumpy, I really do think giving into that is letting the bastards win. Wake up and be happy, my man. Look at the sky. It's blue and it's beautiful. Hug your kids and just realize that your body has hundreds of thousands of years of evolution to pump those hormones through you that make that feel like the most glorious thing you've ever done. Wake up and realize how you're going to spend your day. So even though I have the biggest asshole in the world currently as my president, I wake up and I feed my son Cheerios and we make small talk, and then I take him to school and, you know, we have a chat about his hopes and dreams. And then I go home and I type words into a computer. Not many of them, not very quickly, but I get paid too much to do it. The beauty, politics is in our lives. And one of the biggest social problems I'm increasingly convinced in the United States is, you know, like, so I grew up in New South Wales. So when it was time for the state of origin, I thought it was the most important thing in the world that the Blues won. And I felt that deeply in my bones. With a little bit more distance, I now think it doesn't matter what colour jersey the winning team had. And I think the problem is that once you replace state of origin footy, which is a very healthy pursuit, with politics, then everything becomes terribly, terribly confused. And I just wish that Americans would tune into a better sport.
That's a great note to go out on. And by the way, how good are cameras? When I want to feel good about the world, I just think cameras are amazing.
They're
HD
incredible.
cameras. I like just the technology just blows me away.
You don't even need people then, do you? But also animals. Can we talk about animals?
Oh,
I've got a cat.
I've got two whippets. They're the best.
She purrs. I've got a beautiful dog. And when we're visiting Australia, my partner, Betsy Stevenson, she loves the cockatoos with a furious passion that no Australian understands. But she will literally walk down the street with birdseed in her pocket so she can just like throw a little out and have some cockies around her.
That's awesome. That is definitely the note to go out on. Justin Wolfers, thank you so much for your extraordinary amount of time and for talking about things that I wasn't planning to talk about that turned out to be better things to talk about. Thank you so much.
Great joy, mate.
Enjoy the rest of your holiday. Well, that was Woofers.
That was a lot of fun.
What a special.
You guys got a lot. You guys are two peas in a pep pod.
I really enjoyed that, and he's a busy man, and I hope I got them on this holiday. I hope that while I'm on my holiday, my dad, I hope that he has the time to talk in the future because, as you've heard before, I've got plenty of questions to ask him, and I could just keep on going. He gives good answers. And can I also say, I loved the way he called me out on the AI thing. The thing about saying, where he's saying that the qualities which I think are irreplaceable just happen to be my qualities, which is just human frailty, essentially. We all think that we're irreplaceable and we're special when we're just not. I thought that was really interesting the way he called that, and especially interesting. Like, normally I'm not a fan at all of people name dropping, but the Bill Gates name drop in that case, that was good. Yeah. That was good because it just shows how impressive he is. He doesn't have that particular psychological flaw. And by the way, you know what that proves? That proves he's more of a robot than me. I thought I was the robot. I got called robot. But Bill Gates, he has no human frailty whatsoever. He is the king robot. I dot my metallic hat to you, Bill Gates. And, anyway, that was excellent stuff. I just want to add one little thing about theories out there about why people might be shitting on the economy right now, just shitting on life. Like I was hinting at before, it might be non-economic reasons. But there are some economic reasons out there that people say, some theories. They talk about inflation. They talk about growing inequality. They talk about poor job prospects for people with AI. Now, I don't know about any of them. Unemployment is incredibly low. underemployment is incredibly low in America right now. Like, so people don't just have jobs, but they have enough jobs. The labour force participation is high. So people who want jobs, they've got jobs. Until very recently, there has been great wage growth, just until that last couple of months. Now, yeah, I know that gives them reason to be pessimistic right this moment, but they've been pessimistic for ages.
Yeah.
Real disposable personal income is actually the record high. You're getting more for your wages, apart from the last couple of months, than you have gone at any time in history by a long way. By a long way. Inequality has actually reduced in recent years. You wouldn't think that from the rhetoric, but it's actually reduced. And Americans are just doing so much better than all their peers are. They're doing so much better than Australia, than Europe, than they're like first world countries. There's American growth, American jobs, American everything is just like we all wish we had America's economy. And yet Americans don't. Americans hate their economy and hate everything to do with it. So that's why I think it's probably got to do with something other than economics. People just feeling shit about life. I read something. I didn't have the quote here, but I read something about how increasingly people are renting everything.
Yes.
Not just their houses, but their.
I think you talked about this.
But their music, their TV. They're renting everything. They're streaming things and then they go. They don't own anything. They have a license for things. And at the end of the day, things just slip through their fingers and people just have this sense of, yeah, I'm getting by right now, but I'm working pretty hard. And at some point in time, the music stops and I'm fucked. I think there might be, I mean, look, I should be asking you about this, Locke, because this affects you more than me. I got in before it was impossible to buy a house. I own a lot of shit, but I bet you don't. Do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, I do. I don't really feel like the $2 million a year salary that you've put me on is enough to get me where I need to be. And does that make you feel anxious? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because that might be what's going on. It's not. It doesn't fill me with confidence in the future. Let's put it that way. And I think that lots of other young people. I know that other young people like me feel the same. Being young is about being insecure about your future. Yes, like that. That's not new. But I think what is new is that also when you are like, I think in the past people might have had more of a sense of opportunity. Mm-hmm. Like there's certain insecurity, but also opportunity. Mm. If I make it, if I can make a go of this, there's the potential for success. Whereas I feel like increasingly young people don't feel that potential. They think it's closed off. I know for a fact that I have not had a conversation with anyone my age who has said that they realistically feel they have the chance of owning a house. Mm. Yeah. And that may be true, that may not be true, but that's what they feel. Mm. Yes, that's what that's what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Like I said to woofers, at some point on the boomers die. And when they die, they pass on their property. Mm. It's got to go to someone. It's eventually going to go to these people, but that might not be a good thing. That, like I use the word aristocracy, woofers use the word immobility. Mm-hmm. But anyway, but they're like that might be part of what we're talking about here. It's not just about property. I think it's just about everything. Yes. Yeah. It's we have greater access than ever to cheap, transient things. They're going to come and go, and we will not have them for long. Hmm. And we don't necessarily have access to anything that we're going to keep. And increasingly, the younger you are, the more that's the case. Hmm. But also, let me read you something from the World Happiness Report. Why not? In general, most Western industrial countries are now less happy than they were
between 2005 and 2010. 15 of them have had significant drops compared to 4 with significant increases. In a ranking of happiness changes for under 25s, United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand rank between 122 and 133 in the list of 136 countries. So it's just us. It's just us. It's just Australia, America, the UK,
And the
Canada,
Kiwis.
and the Kiwis. Yeah, and I can say, and we are the people that we all talk to each other.
Yeah.
And so we have this sense of the whole place has gone to shit. No, it's just us. It's just.
That's fascinating.
I don't know why
That's
is.
weird.
I don't know why that is. I find that really interesting. I've got one more quote for you. I did mention social media to woofers. I've got, now the truth is we don't know for a fact if social media is having an impact or not. The World Happiness Report that I was just referred to before is a little bit agnostic about that.
Mm-hmm.
But Annie Lowry wrote a really interesting article in The Atlantic about this exact phenomenon. Why are people so down on the economy and life in general? And I'm going to read you an extended quote, which I thought was really interesting. As Sam Peltzman of the University of Chicago has found, the country has experienced a sudden, sharp, and historically unprecedented decline in self-reported happiness across nearly all typical demographics and geographies. Roughly 20 to 25 percentage points more Americans describe themselves as very happy than not so happy from 1970 to 2020. Then the not-so-happy group swelled and the very happy group shrank, narrowing the gap to 0 to 5 percentage points where it has remained. So it basically happened at COVID and it's stayed since then. He calls it the happiness crash. The crash coincides with a collapse in institutional confidence. Americans are giving up on the Supreme Court, the military corporations, the education system, religious groups, medical professionals, and scientists. It also coincides with a collapse in civic trust. Fewer people think that their neighbours are trustworthy. Fewer believe that the political system can or will deliver for them. Fair enough, I guess. Institutions haven't exactly acquitted themselves well since the Great Recession. Still, the internet nurtures these Hobbesian splenetic views. We never got back to socialising in person after COVID, as my colleague Derek Thompson has noted. And the social media we replaced our friends with lost the social part. In a few decades, we have gone from comparing ourselves with our neighbours to comparing ourselves with our friends on Facebook to sucking on a garbage tube of unabashedly consumerist, questionably accurate, highly emotional and extremely polarising short-form video content milled for us by attention farming software. And I think that's a key point. It's not just social media. It's modern social media as opposed to the social media, which was at least social. Now it's algorithm social media. It's completely flavorless content, which is just designed to just keep you mildly entertained.
Hey, careful. Our shorts are doing really well at the moment.
It's because you've broken them up into bits to make them more digestible content. It works. It works. You're right. It works.
I like this.
I'm not being negative.
I am. We're part of the problem, and I'm making us part of the problem.
No. Look, the point is that the algorithm doesn't matter if it doesn't dominate your life.
Mm-hmm.
Every report shows that the more time you spend attached to the algorithms, the less happiness you have. It's just, you just got to just keep in moderation, and most people don't. But yeah, I think there's a real chicken and egg aspect as well with the institutions. Are people lacking trust because they're unhappy? Are they unhappy because they're lacking trust? Do they feed each other? If you're in a state of constant distrust and paranoia and anxiety, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
And that may make you less likely to trust in future, which will make you less happier. Like maybe we need to hack our own psychology, or maybe our psychology has been hacked for whatever reason and for whatever purpose, and we got to work out how to unhack it. I don't know, but just there's something wrong. There's something wrong, and we're seeing the symptoms. And I don't think we have enough distance to really be able to put our finger on what it is, although we have some clues. But yeah, there's a problem there, lot.
There is, and yet, for a moment today, I got to see two men who were very happy talking to each other.
Yeah, no, that was happy.
It was nice. And it was detached from all of that.
That is true. That is true. I think the answer is more woofers. So you can find him at Platypus Economics. And don't forget to comment about how you want him to speak to him. How much you enjoyed his interview.
If someone could
how much
send
you want him
him
back.
a dot-pointed list of all of the questions that we still have.
No.
Thank you, Justin, for your time.
Thank you very much, Justin, for your time. And thank you much, Peppers, for your time. Obviously, we've gone way over time here. There's going to be no immigration here. This is the Woofers special. There's going to be no Chaz on Ice. I got Melina on Monday. Okay, Monday is the next one. I don't know if it's going to come out on Monday. That's up to the supervisor. But we'll be recording on Monday. And look, let's see how generous the supervisor's feeling. Let's see how much you and I can be bothered. We might have one more extra just to get the ISIS stuff in before we get out of here. But if not, first back is going to be it's going to be dealing with a lot of ice. One of the two. I'm not going to give it up. So yeah. Anyway, you got either way. We'll see you guys on Monday or Tuesday for a Melina Monday, and it's very exciting. Lockie, anything else you want to add?
Stay happy and
stay peppy.